Chapter 1639. Cough, cough, cough. Luo Qingtong was trapped between his chest and the bed. She was instantly shocked by his words. Oh my God, what did she do to this man when she lost control of her mind? Boy toy. Oh my God, what's going on? Cough, cough, cough. Lord Qianming, there must be a misunderstanding. Listen to me. She hurriedly pressed against Yi Qianxian's chest, but her voice was full of guilt. It was because she did have such an idea in the past. She wanted to keep Yi Qianxian by her side to make love with him. But later, she found that this man was too strong. She couldn't afford to offend him, but she could hide from him. So she gave up the idea. Could it be that after she lost control of her consciousness, she accidentally revealed this idea? Thinking of this, Luo Qingtong's lips twitched. She really couldn't imagine what she did to Yi Qianxian at that time. She stole a glance at Yi Qianxian's expression. The man looked at her coldly. No need to explain, I know you weren't conscious at that time. When he said this, Luo Qingtong instantly breathed a sigh of relief. He knew. That's good, that's good. However, just as she breathed a sigh of relief, she heard Yi Qianxian continue. But even if you weren't conscious, it means that you did have such an idea. Pfft. Luo Qingtong almost choked on her own saliva. How could this man be like this? How could he speak like this? She hurriedly said, I swear, I really don't have it now. So, Yi Qianming narrowed his sharp eyes and looked at her. You really did have it before? Cough, cough, cough. Luo Qingtong choked and coughed even harder. Oh my God, this man was getting harder and harder to fool. He had learned to pick the words. Luo Qingtong's lips twitched. Seeing that Yi Qianxian was about to open his mouth to say something, she quickly raised her hand and hooked it around the man's neck. No, no, I can't let this man continue to ask. Otherwise, she didn't know how many secrets would be dug out. Luo Qingtong thought as she hooked her arms around Yi Qianming's neck and kissed him. Okay, I have feelings for you, okay? I've been plotting against you for a long time. As she spoke, her voice disappeared between her lips and Yi Qianming's. This man was evolving too quickly. She used to be the one who had him under her thumb, but now it was the other way around. He was also mentally exhausted. However, although Luo Qingtong thought so, her lips curled up slightly. The pair of eyes that were looking at the man were also sparkling. There was a faint smile in them, which was indescribably seductive. Yi Qianxian's eyes darkened the moment Luo Qingtong kissed him. He knew that this woman was cunning. She must have said that on purpose for him to hear. But he couldn't resist being bewitched. When he heard the girl say that she had been plotting against him for a long time, Yi Qianxian's lips slightly curled. Then he clasped the back of Luo Qingtong's head and kissed her deeply. This woman, I really want to swallow her into my stomach just like that. Feeling the man's aggressive plunder, Luo Qingtong chuckled and almost instantly returned the attack. She was never a woman who would be dominated by others. Even if this person was Yi Qianxian, she wouldn't allow it. Even if this was just a kiss, she wouldn't allow it. Feeling Luo Qingtong's strong response, Yi Qianxian's eyes darkened. Chapter 1640. Lord, Evil Doctor, news came from the Chu dynasty. Something happened in the holy capital. As soon as these words came out, Luo Qingtong and Yi Qianxian's eyes instantly changed. Especially Luo Qingtong, she almost instantly left Yi Qianxian and appeared outside the door of the room in a flash. She opened the door and looked at Beiqing and Feng Yu outside, asking, what's going on? Her eyes were slightly bright and filled with tears. Her lips were slightly swollen. It was obvious at a glance that something had happened inside. Beiqing and Feng Yu didn't dare to look at her. They quickly knelt down and reported, we're not too sure. This news just came from the Chu dynasty's holy capital. After we got it, we immediately came to report. But Evil Doctor, you don't have to worry too much. Master has arranged experts around Old Master Luo and Empress Dowager Yan Shi. the two of them shouldn't be in danger. Luo Qingtong nodded, then looked at Yi Qianxian behind her and said, Qianming, I have to go back. This time, she remembered to tell Yi Qianxian. Otherwise, if she ran away, this man would explode again. I'll go back with you. Yi Qianming didn't say anything more. He directly raised his hand and called out the sky-raising flying boat. He took Luo Qingtong and rushed up. The group rushed to the Chu dynasty's holy capital. Swish! Luo Qingtong and the others appeared in the sky above the Chu dynasty's holy capital. At this time, the Chu dynasty's holy capital was already on guard. Luo Qingtong saw Empress Dowager Yan Shi and Old Master Luo standing on the city wall with a group of Chu's officials and immediately rushed over. Grandfather, grandmother. Luo Qingtong's figure appeared. Old Master Luo and Empress Dowager Yan Shi were pleasantly surprised. Qingtong. They pulled Luo Qingtong over and carefully looked at her. After confirming that she was indeed fine, they let out a sigh of relief. It seemed that their granddaughter had won the 4 Academies event. Ha ha ha. Good, good, good. Old Master Luo let out a long laugh, his heart filled with indescribable joy. With a granddaughter like this, his life was worth it. Grandpa. Luo Qingtong looked at grandfather Luo's legs. Although the latter could now walk again, the bones inside were very fragile. After all, they were newly grown bones. No matter how strong they would not be as strong as those that had been tempered by cultivation before. As far as Old Master Luo was concerned, his legs were crippled. At most, it wouldn't hinder their movement. It would be impossible for them to fight. Upon seeing this scene, Luo Qingtong's eyes flashed with a cold light. Feng Wan. You better be dead. Otherwise, in the future, I will definitely let you know what kind of price you have to pay to touch the people around me. Luo Qingtong's eyes were cold. As for grandfather Luo's legs, she would definitely find a way to heal them. Grandpa, Grandma, what happened in the holy capital of the Chu dynasty? Luo Qingtong didn't forget her original intention of rushing back. She glanced around and didn't find anything amiss. There were no traces of battle in the holy capital of the Chu dynasty. What was going on? Didn't they say that something had happened in the holy capital? Luo Qingtong looked at grandfather Luo with a puzzled expression. The latter was about to speak when a courtier of the Chu dynasty suddenly stepped forward and said, Empress Dowager, it's time. Time? What time? Luo Qingtong was about to ask when she suddenly smelled a fishy smell. At this time, huge wooden barrels were moved to the city wall. Luo Qingtong looked inside and found that it was full of large pieces of meat. Grandpa, what are you doing? Chapter 1641. The meat seemed to be freshly slaughtered, and it was still dripping with blood. Luo Qingtong didn't know what Old Master Luo wanted to do. Sigh, I can't explain it to you in a short time. You'll know when you keep watching. Old Master Luo waved his hand as he spoke. He didn't know how to explain it to Luo Qingtong, so he simply let her watch on her own. It was about time anyway. He waved his hand as he spoke. In an instant, the huge wooden barrels were lifted up by the soldiers and dumped outside the city walls. Because of the protection of the defensive barrier, the pieces of meat in the barrels all slid out along the light of the barrier. Just as Luo Qingtong was getting more and more confused, Yi Qianxian, Bei Qing, Feng Yu, and the others seemed to have sensed something. They looked at the mountains and forests surrounding the holy capital of the Chu dynasty. Boom! 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 A series of earth-shattering noises rang out. These sounds came from the deep mountains and forests near the holy capital of the Chu dynasty. Then, a large group of demon beasts ran out from the mountains and forests surrounding the holy capital of the Chu dynasty. Roar! The demon beasts ran out one by one, racing to the pieces of meat dumped by the people of the holy capital of the Chu dynasty. They ate big chunks. Luo Qingtong looked at this scene and blinked. What was going on? Were grandfather and the others raising a group of demon beasts? When did the relationship between demon beasts and humans become so harmonious? But the strength of these demon beasts, it was a little strange. Luo Qingtong looked at these demon beasts that were obviously very strong. If she remembered correctly, a demonic beast like this could occupy a mountain in the Holy Dynasty's mountain range and become the king of a mountain. And there wouldn't be too many of them. Why were there so many of them here? Luo Qingtong frowned as she looked at these demon beasts. At this moment, she heard old Master Luo's voice ring out again. Bring it up again. This time, buckets of meat soaked in spiritual herbs were brought up. The spiritual energy and medicinal efficacy contained in these pieces of meat were astonishing. Luo Qingtong looked at the pieces of meat being poured down. Suddenly, she had an idea. Could it be what she thought? Just as she was thinking, wave after wave of resounding voices suddenly came from the dense forest of the holy capital of Chu. These sounds were either clear or dull, sharp or rough. However, without exception, all of them contained the power to draw upon the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Saint Beast? Luo Qingtong watched as a green flood dragon leaped out and grabbed the largest piece of meat. Soon after, another blue wand flew out with a sharp cry, holding another piece of meat in its mouth. Its pair of wings flashed with a green metallic luster, beautiful and moving as it flapped in the air. Against the sunlight, it was unusually beautiful. Behind them, there was a group of saint beasts, each of which had a piece of spiritual meat in their mouths. Luo Qingtong looked at the large group of saint beasts that had appeared, then looked at the demon beasts that had appeared before. She immediately raised her hand and pressed her forehead, the corners of her mouth twitching. She finally knew why old Master Luo and Empress Dowager Yan Shi had urgently sent a message to call her back. Oh my, weren't these demon beasts the ones she had brought back from the border of the far west wilderness? Although there were fewer demon beasts, Luo Qingtong really couldn't be more familiar with those few saint beasts. Chapter 1642. Grandpa, what's going on? She looked at Master Luo. The latter also had a bitter expression on his face. I don't know either. Master Luo said, a few days ago, these monsters suddenly appeared. What's strange is that they didn't hurt people and just sat around the sacred capital. You also know how tyrannical their strength is. In less than 2 days, almost all the monsters in the mountains and rivers around the sacred capital were eaten by them. The corners of Elder Luo's mouth twitched as he walked away. He still hadn't forgotten the scene of this large group of monsters suddenly running out and asking for food. At that time, they thought that these monsters were going to attack the city and were scared to death, hurriedly raising a protective shield. However, these monsters just surrounded them and kept shouting. Because they recognized that these monsters seemed to be the same ones that Luo Qingtong had brought to the border to help destroy the Yong army, and these monsters didn't attack them. Master Luo and the others naturally didn't attack these monsters. After figuring out that they were hungry, they began to feed them. Fortunately, the Chu sacred dynasty was vast and rich in resources. Feeding these monsters wasn't a big deal. However, these monsters surrounded the sacred capital and there was nothing they could do. Although these monsters didn't hurt people, their strength was really too tyrannical. If they suddenly went on a rampage, who could bear it? Master Luo thought about it and sent a letter to Blackfield, asking them to inform Luo Qingtong to come back. Because he didn't want to disturb Luo Qingtong and distract her, Master Luo sealed the news and only sent it to Luo Qingtong now. The people of the sacred capital were trembling with fear for a while. Luo Qingtong listened, frowning slightly as she looked at these monsters. After seeing these monsters, Yi Qianxian also turned his gaze to Bei Qing, Feng Yu, and the others beside him. The latter and the others had a bitter look on their faces. Master, we swear that we really drove them back to where they came from. How could these demonic beasts appear here again and surround the sacred capital of the Great Chu? They really didn't know. While Bei Qing, Feng Yu, and the others were explaining to Yi Qianxian, the holy beasts also noticed them. Screech. They immediately saw the girl standing on the city wall. That blue wand let out a cry and was about to swoop down, but when it saw Yi Qianming on the side, it quickly retracted its wings and hurriedly retreated. It looked at Luo Qingtong and screeched again and again. Beside the blue Wan, the huge blue flood dragon also raised its head and looked in the direction of Luo Qingtong, then roared at Luo Qingtong. Roar! As its roar sounded, the air around the entire Chu's sacred capital faintly trembled. The other holy beasts and demonic beasts also cried out in unison. They looked in the direction of Luo Qingtong with burning eyes. At a glance, it was obvious that they were coming for her. Luo Qingtong frowned. Could it be that these monsters had deliberately come to seek revenge on her? Deliberately besieging the sacred capital of the Great Chu and waiting for her to appear? She wasn't the only one who thought so. Yi Qianxian and the others also thought so. Looking at the holy beast staring at Luo Qingtong covetously, Yi Qianxian's eyes flashed with cold light. Chapter 1643. Screech. Seeing Yi Qianxian's actions, the sacred beasts were a little anxious in an instant. At this moment, the Qing Wan suddenly screeched, then turned around and rushed into the dense forest in the mountain range they had just rushed out of. Soon, it picked up a few people and threw them in front of the city gate of the holy capital of Chu. It screeched in the direction of Luo Qingtong and the others. Luo Qingtong didn't know what it meant and immediately looked at those people. At this moment, a courtier of the Great Chu suddenly shouted. These are the people of the Great Yong Imperial Secret Service. They are the men of sacrifice and shadow guards they have trained. Look at the insignia of the imperial family on their bodies. As his voice sounded, everyone also saw the insignia on the torn clothes of those people. It was the symbol of the Great Yong Imperial family. These people's strength had all surpassed the Saint realm. They were wearing black knight clothes. At this moment, they were lying outside the city gate of the holy capital of Great Yong with their last breath. Looking at their attire, it seemed that they wanted to sneak into the holy capital of Chu, but were caught by these sacred beasts. With that thought in mind, everyone gasped. If such a group of people who had surpassed the Saint realm really sneaked into the holy capital of Chu to cause trouble or attack the people of the Great Chu imperial family, the consequences would be unimaginable. In this way, these sacred beasts could be considered to have helped them. Everyone thought so and suddenly looked at these sacred beasts with some surprise. They didn't know why they did this. On the other hand, Luo Qingtong had vaguely guessed something. You're here for this? As she spoke, she released a little bit of the internal aura of the 9-story exquisite pagoda. In an instant, those sacred beasts and demon beasts all became restless. They looked at Luo Qingtong with fanatical and burning faces. They wanted to rush up, but they were afraid of Yi Qianxian's strength. Screech. The Qing Wan, which seemed to be the representative, screeched and nodded at Luo Qingtong. Roar. Ong. Behind it, the group of sacred beasts and demon beasts all opened their mouths and roared. Luo Qingtong had a headache when she heard these cries. Both parties spoke different languages, so there was no way to communicate. She frowned as she looked at these demonic beasts. Then, as if she had thought of something, she raised her hand and released Little Pig from the 9-story exquisite pagoda. Plop. Little Pig was sleeping in the 9-layered exquisite pagoda when he was released by Luo Qingtong and fell to the ground with a thud. It was stunned for a long time. When it got up and saw a circle of demonic beasts outside, it was instantly shocked. What's going on? Why are there so many demonic beasts? He widened his eyes, quickly discovering that these demonic beasts were the same ones that Luo Qingtong had lured over to destroy Great Yong's army. But hadn't Yi Qianxian driven these demonic beasts away? Why are they here again? While it was thinking, it heard Luo Qingtong say, "Tell them that I can give them some of the aura inside the 9-layered exquisite pagoda, but they have to be loyal to me. Otherwise, there's no need to talk about it." Luo Qingtong looked at these demonic beasts outside the city. Now that she knew the purpose of these demonic beasts, she had a way to deal with them. Seeing that these demonic beasts didn't cause any trouble, Luo Qingtong could give them some of the aura inside the 9-layered exquisite pagoda. But these demonic beasts had to be loyal to her. Chapter 1644. Luo Qingtong couldn't hope that they would continue like today and not cause trouble or harm grandfather Luo and the others. She had to get rid of all the unstable factors. If these demonic beasts were willing to swear allegiance to her, then she could give them the aura of the 9-layered exquisite pagoda to help them become stronger. If they were unwilling, then forget it. Seeing that they didn't harm the people of the holy capital, she could let them go. But if there was a next time, she wouldn't let them go. Roar. Hearing Little Pig's words, the sacred beasts were in an uproar. They looked in Luo Qingtong's direction and screamed sharply. What's going on? What did they say? Luo Qingtong looked at Little Pig. They said they're willing to use the information of a treasure land in exchange for the aura of the 9-layered exquisite pagoda. Little Pig said honestly. In other words, they're not willing to submit? Luo Qingtong raised her eyebrows. If that's the case, then let them go. The aura of the 9-layered exquisite pagoda was extraordinary. If these demonic beasts weren't willing to submit to her, Luo Qingtong would definitely not give them the aura. This was to prevent them from getting greedy and doing something irreparable. Hearing this, the demonic beasts became even more restless. They looked fiercely in Luo Qingtong's direction. Their thirst for the aura of the 9-layered exquisite pagoda made them lose their rationality. They even ignored the dangerous aura emitted from Yi Qianxian's body. Roar. The azure flood dragon suddenly roared and flew toward Luo Qingtong. As for the blue wand beside it, it led the saint beasts around it to attack Yi Qianren at the same time. They didn't want to deal with Yi Qianxian, but they didn't want him to help Luo Qingtong. These sacred beasts weren't weak, so they could naturally see that Yi Qianxian valued Luo Qingtong. As long as they had this girl in their hands, the other party would definitely hesitate to attack. At that time, they would be able to get what they wanted. Roar. The sacred beasts were very fast. The group of people from the Great Chu didn't expect that the sacred beasts, who had been docile for so long, would suddenly go berserk. They didn't have time to react. Moreover, because of the sacred beasts' actions from the Great Yong Imperial Secret Service, they had removed the defensive barrier. After all, every second the barrier required a large amount of resources. With Luo Qingtong and Yi Qianxian's sacred beasts, the people from the Great Chu naturally let their guard down. Unexpectedly, an unforeseen event happened at this moment. Qingtong. Old Master Luo panicked and wanted to push Luo Qingtong away. However, Luo Qingtong's father. I'm fine, Grandpa. Qingtong said Luo Qingtong, Luo Qingtong's to Luo Qingtong. Beasts are beasts. As expected, their wild nature is hard to tame. Since you don't want to submit, then I'll beat you until you're completely convinced. Get down. Following Luo Qingtong's clear shout. In her mind, a power that was extremely deterring to demonic beasts suddenly appeared. In an instant, the azure flood dragon, which was about to grab her with its claws, wailed and fell to the ground with a bang. Chapter 1645. Boom. 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 The mountain-like figures were instantly sent flying several hundred meters away. The demon beasts spat out blood as they wailed and rolled on the ground. They heavily smashed into the dense forest and the ground in front of them, breaking countless trees in their wake. In just an instant, not a single demon beast could be seen within several hundred meters of Yi Qianxian. These pig heads are really courting death, Little Pig muttered as he watched from the side. Attacking Luo Qingtong in front of this man? Are they tired of living? Even I don't dare to provoke this man, okay? Where did these pig heads get their courage from? As Little Pig muttered, he completely forgot that he was also a pig right now. And a super cute one at that. Who are these pig heads scolding? Submit or die. Luo Qingtong's voice was ice cold. Yi Qianxian stood beside her. He didn't say anything and only released his aura. In an instant, those demon beasts felt as if their hearts had been ruthlessly struck by a heavy blow. An extremely dangerous feeling enveloped them, causing them to repeatedly cry out and nod their heads. There was no need to choose between life and death. These demon beasts didn't know that Yi Qianxian was so strong. They also didn't know that Luo Qingtong was not to be trifled with. They didn't feel that suppressive force before, and when Yi Qianxian drove them away, he didn't use such a heavy hand. This caused them to misjudge and think that they had an opportunity to take advantage of. These demon beasts whined and submitted. The group of Great Chu people who stood on the city wall were dumbfounded. When those demon beasts pounced on them, they thought that they were in trouble. After all, they knew how powerful these demonic beasts were. Who would have thought that in the blink of an eye, all these demon beasts would be sent flying and submit? They looked at Yi Qianxian with fear and reverence. At the same time, they were also very respectful towards Luo Qingtong. After all, they also saw how the azure flood dragon fell to the ground. The holy conferred princess was truly amazing. The people of Great Chu rejoiced in their hearts. Fortunately, they knew how to repay the kindness and did not forcibly separate Grand Yin and Empress Dowager. Instead, they recognized old Master Luo and let him marry Empress Dowager. Otherwise, how could the Great Chu be in its current state? Thinking of how Great Yong had been destroyed by the Black Field, everyone looked at Luo Qingtong and Yi Qianxian with reverence. Grandpa. Luo Qingtong pulled Grandpa Luo over. The latter still had a lingering fear in his heart as he glared at the group of demonic beasts. Qingtong, let's just kill all these demonic beasts. Thinking of the violent counterattack of these monsters just now, Grandfather Luo is very opposed to Luo Qingtong accepting them. These demonic beasts were too unruly, and their strength was tyrannical. If something were to happen to Luo Qingtong one day, wouldn't she suffer a backlash? It was too dangerous. Grandfather Luo still didn't know that Luo Qingtong could help others contract demonic beasts. He immediately coaxed Luo Qingtong, "Good granddaughter, be obedient. These demonic beasts can't be kept. If they suddenly counterattack in the future, it will be bad for you," Grandfather Luo said with a frown. Luo Qingtong listened and laughed. She looked at Grandfather Luo with curved eyes, and her heart was indescribably warm. Chapter 1646. No matter what, he would always think of her first. "Grandpa, it's okay." As Luo Qingtong spoke, she smiled and leaned over to old Master Luo's ear, whispering a few words. In an instant, Grandfather Luo's eyes widened. You. Qingtong, are you serious?" Old Master Luo looked at his granddaughter's smiling face and stuttered. Not for anything else, but because what Luo Qingtong said to him just now was really too shocking. His granddaughter could actually help others contract demonic beasts? What kind of ability was this? His granddaughter was also a beast tamer? And a high-level one? In an instant, Grandfather Luo was almost stunned. When Luo Qingtong told Grandfather Luo about this matter, she already knew that he would be like this. She smiled and whispered to him, "Grandpa, lower your voice. This will be our Luo family's secret in the future." Luo Qingtong didn't want her ability to be exposed so quickly. The threat of Beast Tamer King Valley had not been eliminated yet. And one more secret trump card was a good thing for her, Grandfather Luo, and everyone in the Luo family. Luo Qingtong liked to see those enemies come over proudly and arrogantly, only to be slapped in the face in the end. Okay. Grandfather Luo repeatedly agreed. He also knew the seriousness of this matter, so he wouldn't casually reveal it. For example, he hid the matter of the spiritual chi gun and spiritual chi bullets very well, and also his granddaughter's identity as evil Dr. Ghost Eye. However, with a bitter face, Grandfather Luo whispered to Luo Qingtong, Tong, you don't have to hide this from your grandmother, right? Because of the spiritual chi gun and spiritual chi bullets, as well as Luo Qingtong's identity, he almost had his ear pulled off by Empress Dowager Yan Shi. If it wasn't for the fact that she felt pain when she saw him, he didn't know how she would fix him. If he still hid it from her, Grandfather Luo felt that his ear that was pulled before was faintly hurting again. No need. Luo Qingtong smiled and looked at the bitter face of old Master Luo. I'm going to let you and Grandma contract the Green Flood Dragon and Green One respectively. She believed that Empress Dowager Yen Shi would know what to do. As for the other demonic beasts, you can choose some of the talented and loyal disciples of the Luo clan to form contracts with. Luo Qingtong would bring half of these demon beasts to the far west wilderness to contract with Tian Xie's people. The more trump cards she had, the better. That way, she would have the confidence to face danger in the future. In this world, the winner was king, and the strong were respected. She would never be a weakling. Not in the past, not now. Luo Qingtong made these demon beasts swear an oath of allegiance with their hearts and souls, and then let them disperse into the jungle by themselves. Then Luo Qingtong took Grandfather Luo and Empress Dowager Yen Shi into the jungle, and helped them form contracts with the Green Flood Dragon and Green One respectively. The two most tyrannical holy beasts were very unwilling at first, but after Luo Qingtong helped them form contracts, they found that what Luo Qingtong helped them form contracts was actually a heaven and earth contract, and they instantly cried out excitedly. A heaven and earth contract was the highest level of contract. Their growth and advancement were not restricted in any way, and at the same time, they could complement each other with their master. Chapter 1647. The two sacred beasts instantly acted as if they had picked up a treasure, treating Old Master Luo and Empress Dowager Yen Shi with great enthusiasm. Not for anything else, but these two people were Luo Qingtong's grandfather and grandmother. With the girl's ability, would their strength be weak in the future? That was absolutely impossible. The sudden change in the attitude of the two sacred beasts surprised Old Master Luo and Empress Dowager Yen Shi. However, they didn't know the difference between a heaven and earth contract and an ordinary contract, so they didn't think much about it. They only thought that this was a normal situation after contracting. The other demonic beasts that Old Master Luo had chosen to contract with also let out excited howls, and all of them became extremely obedient. The remaining demonic beasts that hadn't contracted with Luo Qingtong changed from their initial rejection to envy. They all surrounded Luo Qingtong and howled, indicating that they also wanted a master. If it weren't for Yi Qianxian emitting a cold intent from the side, these demonic beasts would probably be able to bury Luo Qingtong. And this excitement reached its peak when Luo Qingtong drew out the aura of the 9-layered exquisite pagoda for them to devour. Roar! Beast roars sounded one after another, and in an instant, the injuries on the demonic beasts recovered. Not only that, several demonic beasts that were close to the bottleneck of their strength directly broke through with the help of the aura of the 9-layered exquisite pagoda. Pop pop pop. Sounds like butterflies breaking out of their cocoons sounded. These demonic beasts all broke through their current ranks, and they instantly looked at Luo Qingtong with indescribable excitement. Of course, this was also because it was their first time coming into contact with the aura of the 9-layered exquisite pagoda, so there was such an obvious nourishment and breakthrough effect. It wouldn't be so obvious if it happened again. However, it was still very beneficial for their strength advancement in the future. If they could eat from time to time, their strength breakthrough time would be much faster than before. His own potential would also increase. These demonic beasts all roared excitedly to the sky, causing the entire Great Chu's sacred capital to not know what was going on. They didn't think that Luo Qingtong could actually help others contract demon beasts. Therefore, although it was very strange that Luo Qingtong could subdue these demon beasts, they didn't think too much about it. After helping Grandfather Luo and the others form a contract with these demonic beasts, Luo Qingtong also learned about the treasured land that they were talking about. Northern region. Bright Moon Island? Luo Qingtong raised her hand and rubbed her chin. According to those demon beasts, just a few days ago, there was a sudden burst of spirit chi that only they could sense in the Northern Territory. The reason why they knew the name Bright Moon Island was because they had heard about it from the demonic beasts that had flown over from other places. They wanted to use this information to exchange for the aura of the 9-fold exquisite pagoda with Luo Qingtong, but they did not expect that the latter only wanted them to pledge their allegiance. If they had known that Luo Qingtong could help them form a contract with others, would they have gone through so much trouble? They would have pledged their allegiance long ago, okay? Just as Luo Qingtong was deep in thought, somewhere outside the sacred capital of the Empire of Qin, several figures with fierce auras appeared. I've asked around. Elder Xia and the others disappeared when they were chasing a girl named Luo Qingtong. Chapter 1648. Humph. The figure with the sharpest aura coldly snorted and said, "What grand meeting of the 4 academies? It's just those sects of the 6th grade and below." After finding it difficult to recruit disciples from the hidden worlds, they set their sights on the secular lands of the true Spill continent. They want to find some good seedlings. In these years, they've recruited many good disciples from the secular lands. But those people, compared to the ordinary disciples of our hidden worlds, are only mediocre. The man's voice was very dismissive. He looked down on this so-called grand meeting of the 4 academies. Only in the secular lands of the true Spill continent, where the spiritual energy was so barren, would the sects of the 6th grade and below that were forced to come to the secular lands to recruit disciples. In the eyes of the people of the secular lands, a 6th grade sect was already considered a top sect. They were really ignorant and foolish. He coldly snorted. He didn't care about Luo Qingtong's identity at all. This was also because the Great Qi Empire was far away from the other 3 dynasties. Although the people of the Empire of Qin knew that Luo Qingtong had won, they didn't know the specific details. Otherwise, if this person knew the strength that Luo Qingtong had revealed and the identity of the evil Dr. Ghost Eye, he wouldn't have been so disdainful and careless. After all, to be able to cultivate to such a degree in the barren secular lands, and to have such an ability in alchemy, Luo Qingtong's future was absolutely limitless. Her talent and strength were simply formidable to a terrifying degree. Good. Since we know that the other party has been in contact with Elder Xia before, and that they have a grudge, we'll immediately go to the holy capital of the Great Chu dynasty and find the other party to clarify this matter. The matter in the land of the fallen immortals is related to the future development of our celestial palace. We can't make any mistakes. We have to find out who got the information in the end. Elder Xia, who killed him. We must eliminate all those who know of this information. The man's voice was sharp, and there was a hidden killing intent. Yes. The other 2 celestial palace people answered in unison. The 3 of them disappeared outside the holy capital of the Empire of Qin. In Great Chu's holy capital, Luo Qingtong made arrangements for all the demon beasts and returned to Great Chu's imperial palace with Yi Qianxian and grandfather Luo. However, what Luo Qingtong didn't expect was that as soon as she returned, she was kicked out of her room by her grandfather. That was right. He was chased out. Luo Qingtong stared at the closed door in front of her. She didn't know what her grandfather wanted to do. He said that he wanted to talk to Yi Qianxian about some men's topics and then chased her out. Grandpa, don't you know that you're being sexist? Luo Qingtong's lips twitched. But in the end, he didn't go against his grandfather's wishes. Ever since she transmigrated to this strange world, she could feel grandfather Luo's love and care for her. Needless to say, this time, it must have something to do with her, so he deliberately sent her away. Luo Qingtong could roughly guess what grandfather Luo wanted to say to Yi Qianxian. Her lips curved slightly, and she turned to walk out. It felt good to have family. Luo Qingtong quite liked this feeling, of grandfather Luo worrying for her. It was very novel. Luo Qingtong casually strolled around Great Chu's imperial palace. Seeing that it was her, the patrolling guards all saluted and let her pass. Luo Qingtong nodded at them. Chapter 1649. Luo Qingtong walked straight ahead. They walked all the way until they reached an extremely remote courtyard before they came to a stop. Since you are here, why don't you show yourself? Luo Qingtong looked indifferently at the place where the rockery was located not far away. The bloody light in her eyes flickered faintly. Under her eye technique, 3 figures were clearly revealed. These people had just appeared near her and followed her all the way. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes slightly. Luo Qingtong? The 3 people didn't expect that they would be discovered by Luo Qingtong. They walked out of their hiding places and looked at Luo Qingtong with puzzled eyes. However, they didn't think too much about it. After all, this was the Great Chu Imperial Palace. Perhaps they didn't pay attention and exposed their tracks, and were discovered by the other party. The three people didn't pay too much attention to it. They stared at Luo Qingtong. Their figures flashed and surrounded Luo Qingtong. At the same time, the aura around them spread out and enveloped the courtyard to prevent the movement here from spreading out. "You are Luo Qingtong?" the man in the lead said. His gaze was arrogant, and the way he looked at Luo Qingtong was indescribably superior. His aura was blocked. It was the cultivation of the Sage Master Realm. The aura of the two people beside him was also the strength of the Sage Master Realm. One Sage Master Realm, two Sage Masters. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes slightly. She looked at the three people calmly and said, "I am, and you are, Humph. You don't need to know who we are. You just need to tell us that a few months ago, you and a Celestial Palace's Elder Xie had a conflict in the holy capital of the Empire of Qin. That Elder Xie chased you and left. Where did he go after that?" The eyes of the Sage Master Realm expert flickered with a fierce light. His gaze towards Luo Qingtong was filled with cold killing intent. The other party couldn't be left alive. No matter what Luo Qingtong's reply was, they would eliminate the source of trouble. They didn't want to accidentally leak the information and alert the enemy. After all, who knew if the other party was related to the murderer of Elder Xie? Just in case, they wouldn't let Luo Qingtong go. "Oh, you are from the Celestial Palace." Luo Qingtong looked at the three people with her lips slightly curled. So that's it. She had even said that three experts had suddenly appeared out of nowhere and were tailing her. She was still thinking about how to capture them alive for interrogation. This saved her a lot of trouble. Luo Qingtong smiled and said to them, "You want to know who killed Elder Xie, right?" The moment her words left her mouth, the eyes of the three from the Celestial Palace lit up. "You know?" The eyes of the Sage Master Realm expert flickered as he looked at Luo Qingtong and said, "Okay, tell us. From now on, you will be a member of our Celestial Palace. I can make the decision to accept you into our Celestial Palace. You should know that our Celestial Palace is a third-class sect. And you can only enter a sixth-class sect when you participate in the 4 academies gathering." The Sage Master Realm expert said proudly, "As long as you can enter our Celestial Palace, your future will be limitless." Of course, she had to be alive to enjoy it. The Sage Master Realm expert sneered inwardly. He was waiting for Luo Qingtong to say the other party's name, then he would immediately kill her. Chapter 1650. Luo Qingtong looked playfully at the killing intent flashing in the eyes of the Sage Master. The other party probably thought that she had concealed it very well. However, regardless of whether the other party wanted to kill her or not, she wasn't going to let these three people from Celestial Palace go back. She had to take precautions before it rained, and she had to remove the roots when cutting weeds. These people wanted to kill her, but how could they know that she didn't want to let them go? Luo Qingtong pretended to be flattered. Then, she seemed to think of something and said awkwardly, "But I swore to the heavens that I wouldn't reveal that person's name in order to survive. How about this, Senior, come over and I'll write it down for you," she said to the Sage Master. "Okay." The Sage Master wasn't afraid that Luo Qingtong would play any tricks. The other party was only in the Sage realm and wasn't worth mentioning in front of the three of them. Moreover, Luo Qingtong's words were logical. The murderer killed their people from Celestial Palace and was naturally afraid of revealing his identity. If Luo Qingtong didn't do anything and was released by the other party, they would still be suspicious. Now that they heard Luo Qingtong say that she swore to the heavens that she wouldn't reveal the other party's name, they immediately felt relieved. "Okay, write it down." As they spoke, they came to Luo Qingtong's side. "Okay." Luo Qingtong looked at the three Celestial Palace experts who were already very close to her and nodded with a smile. "Senior, look," as she spoke, she suddenly raised her hand and waved. In an instant, the heart of the 1,000-year soul guiding wood appeared in her hand, and the life and death yin yang sword was also in her hand. Heaven's seizing style. Luo Qingtong directly slashed her sword at the weakest saint amongst them, and she killed him on the spot. At such a short distance, the other party was caught off guard. Even that Saint Master and the other Saint Realm expert didn't react in time. They only recovered from their shock when that Saint Realm expert perished. You! That Saint expert was shocked and furious. He never thought that Luo Qingtong would actually have this kind of strength. The other party was merely a Saint Realm expert. How could he suddenly unleash such a powerful attack that far exceeded his own strength? How did she do it? What was with the sudden burst of power in her body? His heart was filled with shock and anger. He almost immediately wanted to attack Luo Qingtong. However, before he could do anything, in an instant, a figure rushed out from behind him and pounced on him, hugging him tightly. This black figure was none other than the Saint Realm puppet that had devoured Feng Wuan earlier. The latter had been refined into a corpse by a living person, so he was filled with resentment. If there was no one to restrain it, after devouring the corpse refiner, it would start a massacre and bring disaster to the world. Luo Qingtong took control of him after he devoured Feng Wuan. Right now, he suddenly rushed out, immediately restricting this sacred expert's movements. Bang! When this sacred expert was hugged by the sage master puppet, Luo Qingtong's other attack slashed down. In the blink of an eye, he killed another saint who was retreating in panic. In an instant, that sacred expert went mad. Ah! Bitch, I'll kill you. He stared at the corpses of the two Saint Realm experts with bloodshot eyes, and then his aura suddenly erupted and instantly blasted away the Saint Realm puppet he was holding tightly to. Chapter 1651. Bang! Just as he leaped towards Luo Qingtong, a figure suddenly appeared beside him. With a wave of his sleeve, he was sent flying. Qianren. Seeing the man's figure in the air, Luo Qingtong's lips curled up. She retracted the attack she had been preparing. When the sage sovereign came into contact with Yi Qianxian's aura, he couldn't help but tremble. Strong. Too strong. He looked in Yi Qianxian's direction in horror. He could feel that the other party didn't use any strength to send him flying. Under such circumstances, wouldn't it be easy for the other party to kill him? He didn't dare to stay any longer. He didn't even dare to look at Yi Qianxian. He got up and ran out. However, as soon as he turned around, the sage sovereign puppet he had sent flying suddenly pounced on him and bit him. Ah! That Saint Sovereign Realm expert of the Celestial Peak Palace let out a blood-curdling scream as he was pushed down. Then, the whole place was filled with mournful screams. Soon, he didn't make any sound. You don't want to keep him alive? Yi Qianxian looked at Luo Qingtong. He was just about to capture the other party. No need. Luo Qingtong shook her head. She already knew the other party's intentions. There was no need to keep him alive to force a confession. As for making the other party submit, she had no intention of doing so. The other party was from Celestial Palace. If they pretended to submit and then fled back to Celestial Palace, they would risk being punished to death by the heavenly Tao to tell the other people in Celestial Palace about her whereabouts. Things would become troublesome. Luo Qingtong didn't want to take this risk. Therefore, she didn't plan to let the three Celestial Palace people live. Who are they? Yi Qianxian looked at the corpses of the three Celestial Palace people. The other party's strength was not ordinary. Was he from the hidden world? He was talking to Grandfather Luo just now, and did not deliberately spread out his aura to sense the aura of the entire Great Chu Imperial Palace. Otherwise, these three people would definitely not be able to enter, let alone attack Luo Qingtong. Yes. Luo Qingtong nodded. They are from the Celestial Palace. She frowned as she spoke. People from the Celestial Palace were looking for her. She was afraid that she would not be able to hide the fact that she had killed Elder Xie. But it was no wonder. Too many people knew about the conflict between her and Elder Xie. If the Celestial Palace wanted to investigate the cause of Elder Xie's death, they would definitely start with him. Now that she was here, these people from Celestial Palace came directly for her. If she wasn't around, would these people go after Old Master Luo and the others? Thinking of this, Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed. No, she had to think of a way to temporarily divert the attention of the Celestial Palace people. At least, she could not trouble Old Master Luo and the others while she was at Bright Moon Island in the northern region. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes and tapped the back of her hand with her fingers. Suddenly, she seemed to have thought of something. In an instant, her lips curled up and she said to Yi Qianxian, "Qianren, let's go to the sacred capital of the great Qi dynasty. To give a gift to someone." Luo Qingtong smiled wickedly. She was a very vengeful person. Those people from the Breeze Pavilion came to make trouble for her before, but they let Feng Wuan escape. Then, they wanted to seek revenge, and they even distorted the truth and slandered her. This time, they would take the blame for the Celestial Palace for her. Chapter 1652. Translation. Yi Qianren looked at the evil aura at the corner of her lips and instantly snorted. He did not know what she was up to this time. However, he did not interrupt Luo Qingtong's excitement. Let this woman do whatever she wanted. Even if the sky fell, he would be there to support it. Yi Qianxian brought Luo Qingtong and disappeared from the Great Chu Imperial Palace. Dark night, Great Qi Dynasty's holy capital. Song Yan was throwing a tantrum where the people from the Breeze Pavilion were. "I don't care. I will make that woman suffer." Song Yan covered her bruised and swollen face. She could not get rid of her resentment. That woman called Luo Qingtong was too audacious. She thought about how she had ordered the people from the Breeze Pavilion to stop Luo Qingtong. Not only had she failed, but she had also been beaten up. The bruises on her face had yet to fade. Why? She was just a woman from the secular world. She was just a little genius. How dare she treat her like this? No matter how powerful that Ming Zun from the Black Field was, could he be more powerful than the entire Breeze Pavilion? He was just bullying the strong cultivators from the hidden world. Song Yan was infuriated. Senior Uncle Zhang's face was also very gloomy. The injuries on his legs had been healed. However, he had been forced to crawl out of the 4 Academies grand banquet. It was too humiliating. He still remembered the extreme humiliation that made him want to kill himself. He had arrogantly gone to find trouble with others. In the end, he had been humiliated. He gritted his teeth as he thought of this. We can't find trouble with that Luo Qingtong for now. That Ming Zun from the Black Field was too powerful. He could not defeat him. However, before Song Yan could voice her displeasure, he had already laughed coldly. I can revoke that Luo Qingtong and everyone related to her from entering the hidden world. He then instructed the people around him, go and tell the people from the other sects that I suspect there is something wrong with the 4 Academies grand banquet. The result of the competition is invalid. Those who won and can enter the hidden world will all be disqualified. Martial Uncle Zhang's face was very cold. Luo Qingtong's strength had already reached the Sage Realm. It was reasonable to say that she could rely on this Sage Realm strength to directly enter the hidden world. However, she had injured someone from the Breeze Pavilion. As long as he reported this matter, he would be able to prevent her from entering. After all, the strength of a Sage Realm expert was not particularly powerful. As for Luo Qingtong's potential and ability, he was currently the strongest in this secular world. As long as he forced the people from the other sects who knew about this, they would not be able to reveal this matter. The people of the hidden world didn't know her potential and strength, so who would stand up for her? Martial Uncle Zhang thought with a cold smile. He wanted Lin Ming to be trapped in the mortal world of True Spill Continent until he died. So what if he had great potential and strength? If she couldn't enter the hidden world, how much could her strength increase in this secular world? Unless she could obtain a great lucky chance, she would be crippled for the rest of her life. This was the price she and that Ming Zun had to pay for daring to deal with them. Chapter 1653. As Uncle Zhang thought of this, the sneer on his face became even more obvious. Although Song Yan was still very dissatisfied and felt that this was not enough to vent the anger in her heart, this was all she could do now. She did not continue to say anything. At this moment, a black shadow suddenly darted into the courtyard where they were. Who is it? Uncle Zhang was the first to react. He immediately slammed the table and flew out to chase after the shadow. Bang! He chased the shadow out of the courtyard and directly slammed his palm at the shadow. Surprisingly, the black shadow didn't dodge at all. Instead, it raised its hand and threw a huge object at him. Bang! Uncle Zhang's palm slammed hard on the object thrown by the shadow. In an instant, he felt his palm hit the flesh. Before he could react, he heard an extremely sharp voice coming from the side not far away. Ah! Murder! Then, another extremely angry voice was heard. People from the Breeze Pavilion, you killed people from the Celestial Palace. You and I cannot exist under the same sky. What? Upon hearing that voice, Martial Uncle Zhang was instantly stunned. Even the people from the Breeze Pavilion who had chased after him from the courtyard were stunned. What? People from the Celestial Palace? They looked in the direction of Uncle Zhang in shock and realized that there was a corpse lying in front of him. Not far away from where the voice came from, there were also two corpses lying on the ground. In an instant, the people from the Breeze Pavilion were stunned. Uncle Zhang, you killed people from the Celestial Palace? The disciples of the Breeze Pavilion stuttered. Celestial Palace. Third-class sect. Any elder or above would be enough to raise the entire Breeze Pavilion to the ground. Uncle Zhang actually killed people from their sect? Even if Uncle Zhang found out that someone was eavesdropping, he did not have to do this, right? No. It was not me. Uncle Zhang was indescribably flustered and exasperated as the disciples stared at him in horror. How could he explain? This person was not killed by him at all. The person was already dead when he was thrown in front of him. Martial Uncle Zhang only reacted after the palm strike, but it was already too late. Furthermore, he did not expect the other party to be from Celestial Palace. Damn it! Who was it that killed these people from the Celestial Palace and framed him? Martial Uncle Zhang was infuriated. However, no one believed him. This was especially true for those who had followed behind the people of the Breeze Pavilion. They had been attracted by the commotion and the shouts. When they saw the corpses of the three people from the Celestial Palace lying on the ground and Martial Uncle Zhang, who was standing not far from the corpses and had obviously fought, they instantly scattered like birds and beasts. They did not want to be silenced by the other party. However, the people from the Breeze Pavilion were too arrogant and bold. He even dared to kill someone from Celestial Palace. Did he think that he was the strongest here, so he got carried away by his own arrogance? With that thought in mind, the crowd dispersed. That Martial Uncle Zhang did not even know who had seen this scene, let alone threaten these people not to say anything. Just like that, he took the blame. In an instant, he was so angry that he almost fainted on the spot. Who the hell set me up? Ah! He roared madly, but no one paid any attention to him. Chapter 1654. Not far from the corner of the wall. Luo Qingtong nestled in Yi Qianxian's arms, watching this scene with a sweet smile. The curve of her lips became more and more evil. Qianming, let's go. Let the people of the Breeze Pavilion have a headache on how to explain to the people of the Celestial Palace. With them as a shield, the attention of the people of the Celestial Palace would definitely be diverted. For the time being, they would not notice her side. With this period of time as a buffer, it was enough for her to return from the Bright Moon Island in the northern region. She did not know what was going on there. She hoped that it would give her a surprise. Luo Qingtong's lips curled up slightly. As for Yi Qianren, his expression was indifferent as he looked at the crafty and evil woman in his arms. Without saying a word, he leaped and disappeared into the boundless night sky. On the way to the northern region, in the Atlas flying ship, Luo Qingtong lay in Yi Qianming's arms and looked at the man in front of her curiously. She asked, "Qianming, what did you say to grandfather?" Luo Qingtong's eyes flickered. After coming out of the Great Chu Palace, Yi Qianming had been a little strange. She did not pay much attention to it before, but now that she was alone with him, she immediately felt it. As for what was strange, Luo Qingtong raised her hand to touch the man's chest. However, before she could touch Yi Qianming, her hand was caught. Nothing. Yi Qianming's expression was indifferent. His eyes were like swords, staring at Luo Qingtong. The dark fire in his eyes surged and surged, but he did not move at all. He only held Luo Qingtong's hand and did not move. Really? Luo Qingtong looked at him and her eyes flickered. Yes. Yi Qianming's eyes darkened. The scene of his conversation with old Master Luo flashed in his mind. "Lord, I don't know if you are serious about Bian, or if it is just a temporary interest." In the room, old Master Luo looked at Yi Qianming with a solemn expression and asked, "Of course I am serious." Yi Qianming's eyes were cold. If the person who asked this question was not old Master Luo, he would have been sent flying out. His feelings for Luo Qingtong could not be blasphemed. "Good." Old Master Luo nodded and looked at him. "Then, the great lord will marry Hua Wu in the future, right?" "Of course." "Good." Old Master Luo stood up. "In that case, Lord, let's not beat around the bush. If anyone dares to hurt her, then I'll fight with my life on the line. But otherwise, please don't touch her. My Bian deserves the best in the world. Lord, I think you should understand what I mean, right?" Old Master Luo met Yi Qianming's gaze without fear. He knew that if Yi Qianming did not like Luo Qingtong enough and could not tolerate her, he would immediately attack him. But he still had to say it. His Bian had a hard life and his parents were not by his side. He was the one who brought her up. Chapter 1655. If Yi Qianming really loved Bian, then he would break all difficulties and marry her. If he couldn't even do this, then the so-called love was just empty words. How could he be with Luo Qingtong? His grandson-in-law didn't need to have a prominent identity or tyrannical strength, but he must love Luo Qingtong. He must be good to her. "I understand." Yi Qianming looked deeply into old Master Luo's eyes and finally withdrew his gaze. "I won't let her suffer the slightest grievance. The other party was also a treasure in his hands. Before I marry her, I won't touch her." Yi Qianqian's thoughts pulled away from his memories. He looked at Luo Qingtong and his gaze deepened. He would deal with the matters over there as soon as possible. At that time, he would propose marriage to the Luo family. He would not let this woman suffer the slightest grievance. Luo Qingtong thought of several methods but couldn't get any information from Yi Qianxian. She could only give up. Soon, the Atlas flying ship swept into the territory of the Sea Emperor Dragon Court in the northern region. The Sea Emperor Dragon Court was the only force in the northern region. In the far north region, the 800 million miles sea was the place where people of the true Spill continent set foot the least. In addition to the endless sea, there was only the endless sea. The only place where people could live was the islands in the sea. The Sea Emperor Dragon Court was the ruler of the far north region. They called themselves the Sea Emperor and ruled over all the people in the 800 million miles sea. It was said that the direct descendants of the Sea Emperor Dragon Court had the ability to control water and sea monsters. They could even live underwater for a long time. In the far north region, they were very worshipped and revered. This kind of reverence had even reached a fanatical level. They were regarded as gods. And the central city of the Sea Emperor Dragon Court was Sea Emperor Island. That was the capital of the Sea Emperor Dragon Court. As for Bright Moon Island, Luo Qingtong, Yi Qianxian, and the others traveled all the way, but they didn't hear anything about it. If not for the fact that those demonic beasts were already loyal to her and coveted the aura inside the 9-story exquisite pagoda, they would never tell her fake news. Luo Qingtong would have thought that she had been deceived. She thought for a moment and decided to go to Sea Emperor Island to take a look. This was the central royal city of the Sea Emperor Dragon Court. Perhaps they would be able to find some clues related to Bright Moon Island there. Yi Qianxian naturally had no objections. He had originally come here to accompany Luo Qingtong. Wherever the girl went, he would go. The two of them rarely went out together. In addition, Luo Qingtong had already blamed the Celestial Palace incident on the people of the Breeze Pavilion. For the time being, there was no need to worry that the other party would cause trouble for Grandfather Luo. Yi Qianxian also arranged for the experts of the Black Field to stay by Grandfather Luo and Empress Dowager Yan Shi's side. Luo Qingtong didn't have any burdens in her heart, so she naturally wasn't very anxious. The two of them traveled all the way to Sea Emperor Island. In the Great Qi dynasty's holy capital. Martial Uncle Zhang was so angry that he almost had a cerebral hemorrhage after being framed by Luo Qingtong. He returned to the place where he and the others were staying. When he thought of the people of the Celestial Palace who could come to deal with him at any time, he instantly trembled with anger and fear. Bastard! Don't let me find out who framed me. Otherwise, I'll make her suffer a fate worse than death. I won't let this go, I won't let this go. He roared crazily. Hearing his words, Song Yan's heart suddenly jumped. Chapter 1656. Martial Uncle, I think that this was most likely done by that Luo Qingtong. Her eyes were filled with malice as she instigated, Martial Uncle, you see, in the mortal world of True's Spill Continent, we don't have any enemies. There is only that Luo Qingtong who tried to deal with us before. I think that these 3 Celestial Palace people were killed by that Black Field underworld revered. She deliberately framed us. You see, we are from the Cool Breeze Pavilion. She doesn't dare to deal with us openly, so she can only use such shady methods. She wants to borrow a knife to kill us and have those people from Celestial Palace deal with us. Martial Uncle, this woman's heart is too dark. She wants you to die. Song Yan spared no effort to incite. In truth, most of what she said was nonsense. In this 4-courtyard meeting, there were many people from the other sects of True's Spill Continent. They were extremely arrogant and wanton. Who knew who they had offended and who they had been framed by? But no matter who it was, she had to say that it was Luo Qingtong. Who told her to offend her before? With such a good opportunity, she had to have Martial Uncle Zhang ruthlessly teach her a lesson. Luo Qingtong wouldn't be able to bear the consequences. Uncle Master Zhang's face instantly darkened when he heard her words. Slut! He fiercely clenched his teeth. That stinking girl. He was afraid of Underworld revered strength and let her go. He didn't want to cause trouble for her, but she actually came to deal with him. This Martial Uncle Zhang was in a rage at this moment. He was like a mad dog that was eager to bite someone. As soon as he heard Song Yan's words, he immediately believed her. Or rather, whether he believed her or not, he needed a place to vent his anger. Investigate for me. Where is that stinking girl? I don't believe that Ming Zun can stay by her side all the time. Don't give him a chance. Otherwise, he would make her suffer a fate worse than death. Yes. Martial Uncle. As Song Yan saw that she had succeeded, she was secretly overjoyed. She quickly replied, we will definitely investigate carefully. Luo Qingtong, just you wait. She was extremely pleased with herself. In the northern region, Luo Qingtong was still unaware of this. She was strolling around Sea Emperor Island with Yi Qianxian. Bei Qing, Feng Yu, and the others followed them from a distance. The Sea Emperor Island occupied an extremely large area. It was almost like a giant beast crawling in this vast sea. It was surrounded by 4 islands that looked like guards. It was said that when the Sea Emperor's Dragon Court was first established, the first Sea Emperor controlled countless sea monsters, controlling seawater and sand at the same time, piling up and expanding the island. At that time, this was regarded as a miracle. The Sea Emperor's Dragon Court had also established itself as the ruler of the far north. For so many years, the people of the northern divine region had relied on the sea for their livelihood. Regardless of whether they were cultivators or ordinary people, their reverence and respect for the Sea Emperor's Dragon Court had never disappeared. Luo Qingtong held Yi Qianxian's hand. While listening to everyone's praise for the Sea Emperor's Dragon Court, she secretly inquired about Bright Moon Island. Yi Qianxian, who was beside her, wore a golden mask on his face. His handsome face was completely hidden behind the mask. But even so, it couldn't hide his innate elegance. Everyone who passed by, regardless of whether they were men or women, all gathered their gazes on him. Yi Qianren turned a blind eye to these gazes. Chapter 1657. Luo Qingtong suddenly heard a series of earth-shattering cheers coming from the front. It was extremely loud. "Auntie, what's going on? Why is it so lively in front?" Luo Qingtong and Yi Qianxian had just landed on the island and didn't know what was going on. Luo Qingtong was chatting with an old auntie and asked immediately. "Oh, this is the Sea Emperor ritual." The auntie smiled at Luo Qingtong and Yi Qianxian and said, "You two are from the outside, right? The Sea Emperor ritual is a big event in the northern region. Everyone knows about it. Today is the birthday of our Sea Emperor Island. It's also the day that the Sea Emperor will come to the northern region and seek for the well-being of the northern region. On this day, all the islands will hold a grand Sea Emperor ritual. Among them, our Sea Emperor Island will hold the grandest one. All the important figures in the Sea Emperor's royal court will attend, including the princes, princesses, and concubines. It's rare for outsiders like you to see it. You can go and have a look." The auntie smiled and said, "The Sea Emperor ritual hasn't officially started yet. There's still time." As she spoke, she leaned closer to Luo Qingtong and whispered, "Miss, is this your husband beside you? Sigh, I know he must be very handsome with one look. Hurry up and bring him to the Sea Emperor ritual. May the Sea Emperor bless the two of you for a long time. I'm afraid that a little vixen will kidnap your husband." Pfft. Luo Qingtong couldn't help but laugh when she heard this. Before she could reply, she felt her hand being pulled by someone. Yi Qianxian pulled her towards the direction of the cheers. Hey, what are you doing?" Luo Qingtong tried to hold back her laughter as she followed him. "I'll give you a chance to beg others to not let a vixen kidnap me." Yi Qianxian's expression was indifferent, but his gaze towards Luo Qingtong was abnormally deep. The two words, husband, from the auntie just now made him feel very comfortable in his heart. Especially when she urged Luo Qingtong to hurry up and go to the Sea Emperor ritual so that he wouldn't be kidnapped by others, he felt even more comfortable. Luo Qingtong couldn't hold it in anymore. "Huh, you also believe in this?" She looked at Yi Qianren teasingly and then realized that the man's face had darkened. All right, let's go. I'm also curious about the sea. I'm curious about the Sea Emperor ritual." At the same time, they wanted to go there to inquire about the Moon Island, on Luo Qingtong's. Luo Ming-on's was on the island. As Luo Qingtong said this, she tiptoed and kissed the man's chin with a smile. Only then did Yi Qianxian's expression turn for the better. He snorted coldly and pulled Luo Qingtong into his arms. Then, he rushed towards the direction of the Sea Emperor ritual. However, Yi Qianxian probably didn't expect that such a thing would happen at the Sea Emperor ritual. If he had known, he definitely wouldn't have gone with Luo Qingtong. The two of them rushed towards the direction of the Sea Emperor ritual. The closer they got, the louder the cheers became. When the two of them arrived at the venue of the Sea Emperor ritual, they saw a sea of people. Countless people surrounded a square in front of them. Chapter 1658. There was a statue there. It was said that it was left behind by the first Sea Emperor. From the excited voices of the people around her, Luo Qingtong could tell that there would be a miracle when the Sea King ritual began. Miracle? Is it that interesting? Luo Qingtong looked at the scene in the square. On the square, the young men and women of the Sea Emperor's dragon court were lined up. Among these people, the oldest was about 12 or 13 years old, while the youngest was 5 or 6 years old. They were all direct descendants of the Sea Emperor's dragon court. It was said that during the Sea Emperor ceremony, these people would be able to obtain the power bestowed by the Sea Emperor by praying in front of the statue. This was also the most important source of strength for the people of the Sea Emperor's dragon court. It was the difference between them and the other martial artists of the North region, and the ability to rule the North region. Every year during the Sea Emperor ceremony, there would be direct descendants of the Sea Emperor's dragon court who would awaken. Therefore, the Sea Emperor ceremony on Sea Emperor Island was watched by the most people, and it was also the most famous. The Sea Emperor ceremonies on other islands were just a formality. Only the Sea Emperor ceremony on Sea Emperor Island had real symbolic meaning and practicality. Buzz. As Luo Qingtong looked over, the prayers and cheers in the Sea Emperor ceremony had reached a climax. Then, a person who looked like a sorcerer held a wooden scepter in his hand and suddenly pointed it forward. In an instant, the entire statue of the Sea Emperor suddenly emitted a dazzling light. An incomparably huge light shield instantly enveloped everyone in the square. Following the appearance of this huge light shield, the young men and women standing in front of the Sea Emperor's statue in rows suddenly burst forth with rays of light. In an instant, an incredible change happened to their bodies. A certain part of their bodies had turned into a beast form. At the same time, swoosh! One of the youths suddenly raised his hand, and an extremely cold gust of wind shot out from his fin-like hand. In mid-air, an invisible stream of water gushed out. Ha! I succeeded in awakening. The young man's voice was filled with ecstasy. Seeing this scene, the earth-shattering cheers all around became louder. Sea Emperor! Sea Emperor! Cheers could be heard one after another. The crowd in the square was almost fanatical, roaring hysterically. They kept surging forward, dancing in all kinds of ways. The entire crowd surrounding the square began to fluctuate wildly and violently. As for Yi Qianren, the expression on his face changed the moment the light barrier descended. Not because of anything else, but because the power of the demon fox's curse that had been suppressed in his body suddenly started to boil again. One had to know that Yi Qianxian had a special constitution. After he dissolved and fused with the demon fox blood essence and successfully extended his life, the blood curse of the demon fox was suppressed. However, the suppression did not disappear. The power of the demonic fox blood curse was still there, but Yi Qianxian was enough to prevent it from affecting him. However, the demonic fox blood curse power in Yi Qianxian's body burst forth again as the statue of the Sea Emperor shone brightly during the Sea Emperor ritual. Almost instantly, Yi Qianxian turned into a mini fox. His clothes and robes were scattered all over the ground, and the dark golden mask on his face fell to the ground with a clang. Paji! Yi Qianxian fell into the pile of clothes and was instantly stunned. Chapter 1659. Whoosh! The frenzied crowd that was constantly roaring and rushing forward was driven back by the guards of the Sea Emperor royal court. In an instant, they covered Yi Qianxian's small silver fox body. Qianren. Luo Qingtong didn't even react when Yi Qianxian transformed. She only felt the man beside her disappear in an instant. She subconsciously turned her head and saw the little silver fox that fell on the pile of clothes. She was stunned for a moment, and then the crowd rushed over and covered Yi Qianxian's figure. Luo Qingtong saw this scene and hurriedly rushed over, trying to pull Yi Qianxian out of the sea of people. However, there were simply too many people being chased back. Everyone was involuntarily retreating. Luo Qingtong went against the flow and encountered too much resistance. Yi Qianxian's small body didn't have the advantage in this crazily surging crowd. In an instant, he was pushed far away. Fortunately, Yi Qianxian's body was strong and agile. After being stunned for a moment, he didn't have time to be annoyed. He directly jumped up and ran in the direction of Luo Qingtong's voice. Bang! On the important viewing platform of the Sea Emperor Royal Court, a bright and beautiful girl dressed in luxurious princess clothes stood up with a whoosh. She didn't care about the wide chair behind her. Quick! Quickly capture that little silver fox for this princess. She stretched out her hand and pointed at Yi Qianxian, who was constantly shuttling through the crowd and sweeping toward Luo Qingtong. Her proud and bright face was filled with pleasant surprise. The third princess of the Sea Emperor only glanced down the stage and didn't expect to see a person transform into a fox. Thinking of the moment when that person transformed, and the handsome face that was revealed when the dark gold mask fell off, her heart thumped. What surprised her even more was that the other party had transformed into a complete beast form. Oh my God, could this be? The third princess' heartbeat quickened as she thought of a possibility. She shouted sternly, "Quick! Catch it for me. No one is allowed to hurt it. Otherwise, this princess will not let you off easily." The group of guards from the Sea Emperor Dragon Court didn't dare to be careless when they heard this. They hurriedly led their troops towards Yi Qianxian. The guards in charge of guarding the square also received the order and immediately rushed into the crowd, driving away all the people around Yi Qianxian. The latter quickly realized that something was wrong. When a guard from the Sea Emperor Dragon Court pounced on him, he instantly dodged to the side. At the same time, he used his sharp claws to viciously scratch the guard. Roar! Yi Qianren's face instantly darkened when she subconsciously did this. Not because of anything else, but because this action was really very childish, and it had no lethality at all. He looked coldly at the guard from the Sea Emperor Dragon Court who wiped the trace of blood on his face and then pounced on him again. At the same time, the guards around it pounced on him. Yi Qianxian's figure was trapped in the middle of them. At this moment, a figure flashed in and caught the fox in his arms before the guards could pounce on him. "Sorry, this is my little silver fox. Sorry to disturb everyone." Chapter 1660. When the latter sensed her presence, it retracted its sharp front claws and huddled in her arms with a cold snort. Its little head was buried in Luo Qingtong's elbow, and it didn't even want to raise its head. Its heart was filled with indescribable depression. It wasn't for anything else, but the fact that he didn't want Luo Qingtong to discover his secret of transforming into the silver fox. Everything was exposed now. Damn it, if he had known earlier, he would never have participated in this Sea Emperor ceremony. Yi Qianxian's heart was filled with a burst of anger, and the nature of a young fox emerged. In an instant, its 4 little claws scratched Luo Qingtong's chest. It scratched Luo Qingtong's robe until it was pulled up. Feeling the little guy fidgeting in her arms, and seeing that Yi Qianxian didn't even want to raise his head, Luo Qingtong couldn't help but laugh in her heart. She nodded to the people from the Sea Emperor's royal court and turned to leave. At this moment, a charming and stern voice rang out. "Stop." The third princess of the Sea Emperor arrived at this moment. She looked at Luo Qingtong's beautiful face with jealousy, and then her gaze fell on Yi Qianxian in Luo Qingtong's arms. Seeing the latter lying in Luo Qingtong's arms so obediently, she knew that the two must be together. No. She couldn't let them take this man away. He was the one who took a fancy to her. What's more, this man was able to transform into his beast form under the light of the Sea Emperor's heart, and in such a complete form. She couldn't let him go. Thinking of this, she suddenly said coldly, "Who said that this little fox is yours? It clearly sneaked out of this princess's residence. I was looking everywhere for it. How did it become your little fox?" As she spoke, she raised her head and said to the guards beside her, "Go, take it for me." Yes. When the people from the Sea Emperor's royal court heard this, they immediately surrounded Luo Qingtong. The latter stopped in his tracks and turned around with a frown on his face. He looked at the arrogant and overbearing third princess and said coldly, "Third princess, this little fox is in my arms. It's obvious who she is at a glance. What do you people from the Sea Emperor's royal court mean? As long as one wasn't blind, one could see that Yi Qianxian was hers. The third princess of the sea wanted to snatch it by force? Luo Qingtong's eyes turned cold as she thought of this. This princess said, "This little fox is mine." The third princess of the sea looked to Luo Qingtong's Luo Qingtong. She said slowly, "As for why it's lying in your arms so obediently, I'll know what you did to it after I capture you." Of course, she had the final say. If she said that Luo Qingtong did it, then she did it. The third princess looked at Luo Qingtong coldly. "Fight with me?" "Humph." She sneered. This man turned into a fox, she must have it. If she knew what was good for her, she would immediately put down the silver fox and leave. She could still save her life. Otherwise, she wouldn't be able to leave Sea Emperor Island. On Sea Emperor Island, the Sea Emperor's royal court was God, heaven, and everything. "Men, capture her. Bring that little fox to me." Following the third princess's voice, the people from the Sea Emperor's royal court were about to make a move on Luo Qingtong. The latter's eyes sharpened and she was about to make a move. Chapter 1661. Big Sister. Following this voice, a skinny figure dashed towards Luo Qingtong. "Your Highness. Your Highness." A group of people followed behind that figure and hurriedly chased after him. "Your Highness." The group of people from the Sea Emperor Dragon Court who were about to attack Luo Qingtong saw the figure rushing towards them and immediately knelt down. They didn't dare to attack anymore. "What are you all doing?" When the figure got closer, he realized that Luo Qingtong and the others were at daggers drawn. He stopped in his tracks and looked at the people who were about to attack Luo Qingtong. Yes, the people from the Sea Emperor Dragon Court looked at the third princess and didn't dare to make a sound. They didn't dare to say that it was the third princess who ordered them to attack the girl and steal her little fox. "Third royal sister, what's going on?" That figure looked solemnly at the third princess of the Sea Emperor, and the latter looked at him with an ugly expression. "Royal brother, do you know her?" She pointed at Luo Qingtong. At this moment, the latter also recognized the figure that was rushing over. "Your little she?" Luo Qingtong looked at the young man in front of her in surprise. The latter's jade-white face looked like it was carved from jade. Because he had started to grow taller, the lines on his face had become more slender. He looked a little more handsome, but he was still very cute. Who else could he be if he wasn't the little boy from the Laniyue aristocratic family whom she had saved on the Nine Magi Mountain? He was actually from the Sea Emperor Dragon Court in the northern region. The people from the Laniyue aristocratic family said that he had been taken away. Was he taken away by the people from the Sea Emperor Dragon Court? Luo Qingtong's expression was one of shock, but little Lucky's expression was one of joy. "Yes. Big sister, you still remember me?" He looked at Luo Qingtong with admiration. That pair of beautiful eyes seemed to be sparkling. To Huang Fushi, Luo Qingtong was the light that appeared in his life. She had saved everything, including his life and destiny. He would never forget the moment he saw Luo Qingtong when he was chased by the demonic pythons in the Nine Magi Mountain. The girl's face was covered in blood and tatters, but she had saved him from the demonic pythons easily. Not only that, but she had also cured the poison in his body and saved his life. It was all because of Luo Qingtong that he was able to return to the Sea Emperor Dragon Court in the northern region and be called Little Highness. Huang Fu she looked at Luo Qingtong with eyes full of admiration and admiration for Luo Qingtong. He didn't even pay attention to the third princess beside him. The latter was completely ignored and instantly clenched his teeth in anger. "Royal brother, I'm asking you. Also, who are you calling big sister?" She looked at Luo Qingtong with disdain and said coldly, "Don't forget that you are the little prince of the Sea Emperor Dragon Court. Not just anyone can be your big sister." Her heart was filled with uneasiness. This woman knew Huang Fushi. How troublesome. If that was the case, she couldn't do anything to her. The third princess gritted her teeth at this thought. That's my problem. You don't have to worry about it, big sister Wang. Huang Fushi came to his senses and recalled the scene he had just seen. He immediately put on a stern face and said, "Why did big sister Wang attack my big sister?" Chapter 1662. He stared at the third princess with a solemn expression. He knew his royal sister's personality very well. In the past, when he was judged to be a good-for-nothing who couldn't cultivate or awaken the Neptune's bloodline, she was as harsh as she wanted to be. The other party was arrogant and willful, and the whole world had to flatter her. If she said that she was the one who took the initiative to provoke Luo Qingtong, he would definitely not doubt it. "Royal brother, what do you mean by this? I am your royal sister. You're siding with an outsider?" The third princess looked at Huang Fushi coldly. Pointing at Luo Qingtong, she said, "She's the one who stole the silver fox I bought and raised in my residence. What about it? Can't I get my own thing back?" The third princess sneered, "Royal brother, are you planning to bully this princess with an outsider?" She had already made up her mind. No matter what the other party said later, she would insist on this point. No matter what, she must get her hands on the silver fox that man turned into. She stared at Yi Qianxian in Luo Qingtong's arms with a burning gaze. The latter glanced at her coldly and didn't bother to pay attention to her. After discovering that Luo Qingtong was no longer in danger, Yi Qianxian curled up again and nestled in Luo Qingtong's arms. He was still depressed about his identity being exposed. He didn't know how that woman would laugh at him later. As for the third princess, in Yi Qianxian's eyes, she wasn't even a speck of dust. Seeing Yi Qianxian's contempt and disregard for her, the third princess felt very uncomfortable. She couldn't hide her jealousy and hatred as she glared at Luo Qingtong. Then, she coldly said to Huang Fushi, "Royal brother, since you know her, I can overlook her crime of stealing the silver fox. Ask her to return my silver fox and I'll drop the matter, how about it?" "No." Luo Qingtong's voice was cold. She looked at the proud and complacent third princess and said coldly, "This little fox is mine. I'm afraid the Sea Emperor's Dragon Court doesn't teach you to be thick-skinned and shameless. Where did you learn all this from, third princess? Truly, shameless to the extreme. You." The third princess was so angry that her chest heaved up and down. She looked at Huang Fushi angrily and said, "Brother, you heard it too. She insulted our Sea Emperor Dragon Court. You stole the fox and slandered the Sea Emperor Dragon Court. You're still a descendant of the Sea Emperor Dragon Court. Don't let her do as she pleases." What he meant was that he wanted Huang Fushi to deal with Luo Qingtong. However, the young man's words almost angered her half to death. "If what elder sister said is wrong, I will apologize to elder sister Wang on her behalf and accept my punishment. But if what elder sister said is true, then elder sister Wang has tarnished the reputation of our Sea Emperor Dragon Court." What's wrong with elder sister Wang saying that? Elder sister Wang, you should be the one to reflect on your actions and accept your punishment. Otherwise, the tens of millions of people on Sea Emperor Island will be bitterly disappointed in our Sea Emperor Island. Father has always taught us to lead by example. Have you forgotten, elder sister Wang? The third princess was so angry that she almost fell to the ground when she heard Huang Fushi's words. This traitorous bastard. He's actually helping an outsider deal with me. She was so angry that she wanted to say something. Chapter 1663. Sister, can you prove that this little fox is yours? Hearing this, the third princess instantly sneered and retracted the words that were about to come out of her mouth. Her little brother was so naive. This silver fox couldn't possibly speak. How could she prove that the silver fox was hers? No matter how intimate their actions were, all he had to do was insist on what they had done to the silver fox. She would see how they would deal with it. Her little brother had dug a big hole for her and that woman. The third princess sneered. She didn't know that this was all because Luo Qingtong had sent a voice transmission to Huang Fushi. How could the third princess let go of such a big hole that Huang Fushi had dug for her? Almost immediately, she followed Huang Fushi's words and said, "Fine. Brother, as long as she can prove that this silver fox is hers, I will immediately apologize to her and admit that I have insulted the reputation of the Sea Emperor's royal court. At that time, I am willing to accept any punishment from the royal court. But if she can't prove it, then this little silver fox belongs to me. You and her will both be punished. Especially her, for insulting the Sea Emperor's royal court. At that time, you and the Sea Empress must not deliberately cover for her." The third princess of the Sea Empress smiled proudly. She would only win this bet. After all, if the other party couldn't prove it, then the silver fox would belong to her. She didn't need to do anything to get everything she wanted, and she could even teach Huang Fushi a lesson. In this way, this woman could be considered to have done her a big favor. After all, during this time, Huang Fushi's family had been the dominant force. She and her brother couldn't do anything to them. Although the other party wouldn't be arrogant for much longer. But before that, being able to teach them a good lesson was also very refreshing. The third princess thought so, and the smile on her face became even colder and more arrogant. "Fine. I promise you. Your Highness." The guards on Huang Fushi's side hurriedly called out. The young boy waved his hand nonchalantly. "Sister, you can prove it, right?" He was full of confidence in Luo Qingtong. He didn't believe that Luo Qingtong would harm him. Of course. Luo Qingtong chuckled when she saw the smug and cold expression on the third princess' face. Then, she reached out to touch the useless ring on her finger. Although Yi Qianxian didn't pay any attention to the third princess, his ears were perked up as he listened to the commotion outside. At this moment, he sensed Luo Qingtong's movements and thought of what she had just said. He suddenly had a bad feeling in his heart. What was this woman going to use to prove her identity? He was in his beast form and couldn't speak. Even if he could interact with her intimately and point out her name, the third princess of the sea wouldn't acknowledge him. This woman agreed to such a condition and was so confident. Could it be? Yi Qianxian suddenly thought of a possibility and jumped up in an instant. The hair on his body seemed to be about to explode, and he ran out with a swish. However, just as he moved, Luo Qingtong hugged him. "Good boy." Luo Qingtong held back her laughter and kissed him on the nose. Chapter 1664. That won't do. Yi Qianxian was about to explode. But before it could struggle, Luo Qingtong had already put it on. That's right, the things that Luo Qingtong took out were the things that she had shown Yi Qianxian before, the things that she had sewn for little silver. Little cloaks, little scarves, little hats, and so on. The patterns on it were extremely gaudy and adorable. They were as exaggerated as they could be. They were as cute as they could be. Yi Qianxian's face darkened when he saw these things. Roar. It let out a childish roar. If it could speak now, the content of its words would definitely be, Luo Qi. When everyone saw the things that Luo Qingtong took out and the things that belonged to the silver fox, they instantly knew that the silver fox belonged to Luo Qingtong. Otherwise, there was no way that she would have so many things that belonged to the silver fox. It was impossible to say that Luo Qingtong had planned this all along. Because there were a few old toys inside, there were bite marks and claw marks left by the silver fox on them. It was easy to tell what they were after looking at them. So, this silver fox really did belong to Luo Qingtong. It was the third princess who had framed her. I didn't think that the third princess would actually lie. Yeah. How could she be such a person? She's a disgrace to the reputation of the Sea Emperor Dragon Court. Yeah. It's just a silver fox. She's a princess, but she wants to steal it from someone else. Is there anything more shameful than this? All eyes gathered on the third princess and the others. Everyone on the third princess's side lowered their heads in shame. This was the Sea Emperor ceremony, and who knew how many people had gathered here? Not only were there people from Sea Emperor Island, but there were also important figures and powerful beings from other islands. The third princess had disgraced the entire Northern Territory. And it couldn't be washed away. Doing something like this during the sea god sacrificial ceremony was going to be a disgrace to the sea god dragon court for the rest of her life. Not only that, but she had also insulted the reputation of the Sea Emperor Dragon Court in front of so many people. She didn't know what kind of punishment she would receive when she returned. At that time, punishment, flogging, and confinement would be unavoidable. Those who followed him would also be punished. Their future prospects would be uncertain. Everyone's faces turned green and white as they thought about it. Their hearts were filled with indescribable regret. If they had known earlier, they would have told the truth earlier. Offending the third princess was far better than offending the entire Sea Emperor Dragon Court. Everyone's hearts were like dead ashes. The third princess of the Sea Emperor's expression was unsightly. She didn't expect Luo Qingtong to use such a method to prove Yi Qianxian's identity. Damn it, wasn't this silver fox transformed from that man? Why did that woman have so many things that were obviously used by the silver fox? The evidence was so conclusive that she couldn't even refute it. The third princess of the Sea Emperor was in disbelief. Could it be that she was raising that handsome man as a pet? Her eyes were filled with incredulity. Right at this moment, Huang Fuxi's voice sounded. Sister Wang. He spoke with a solemn expression. Do you have anything to say now? Then hurry up and apologize to Sister Wang. Otherwise, the reputation of our Sea Emperor Dragon Court will be completely tarnished. Chapter 1665. Who does he think did this to her? It's all because of this traitor. If he hadn't helped her deal with me, this woman would have died a long time ago, and that little silver fox would have been mine. How would I have ended up in this situation where I and the Sea Emperor's Dragon Court have lost all face? The third princess of the Sea Emperor was furious. Her chest heaved up and down, and blood rushed to her head. But in front of so many people, she couldn't just give in. If this wasn't the Sea Emperor's ceremony, she would have turned around and left. Could it be that Huang Fuxi dared to stop her, Sister Wang, from apologizing to an outsider? But this was the Sea Emperor's ceremony. And there were so many people here. The third princess gritted her teeth and had no choice but to lower her head. She looked at Luo Qingtong and said hatefully, I'm sorry. I've slandered you. The third princess gritted her teeth so hard that she almost broke her teeth. She quickly left after saying that, but before she left, she looked at Luo Qingtong with unspeakable hatred and viciousness. Just you wait. Looking at her eyes, Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes slightly. At this moment, Huang Fuxi walked up to her and asked with anticipation and apprehension, Big sister, can you stay at my place? He looked at Luo Qingtong with a longing expression and quickly said, I can show you around the Northern Territory. Big sister, the Northern Territory is very fun. Can you stay for a while before leaving? As for Big Sister Wang and the others, I won't let them disturb you. He made a solemn promise. He was overjoyed to be able to see Luo Qingtong again. Because of some reasons, he couldn't return to the Eastern Territory for the time being. He thought that he wouldn't be able to see Luo Qingtong for a long time. He didn't expect the girl to appear here. It was a pleasant surprise. Okay. Luo Qingtong hugged Yi Qianxian and gestured to Bei Qing, Feng Yu, and the others in the crowd. The latter had already rushed over after receiving the news when she was confronting the third princess of the sea. However, because Huang Fuxi appeared at that time, Luo Qingtong told them to hold back for the time being. At this time, the young man invited her to live in his residence. Luo Qingtong thought about it and agreed. Firstly, she could avoid a lot of trouble if she stayed at his place. Secondly, she wanted to inquire about Bright Moon Island, and Huang Fuxi might be able to help her. Luo Qingtong nodded. Huang Fuxi was so happy that he jumped up and hurriedly took Luo Qingtong back to his mansion. He arranged for Luo Qingtong to stay in his courtyard, which was only separated from him by a wall. In this way, if Luo Qingtong had an accident, he would also have an accident. He wouldn't be afraid that someone would dare to secretly find trouble with Luo Qingtong. After all, assassinating the little prince of the Sea Emperor Dragon Court was not a small crime. If the third princess of the sea wasn't stupid, they wouldn't dare to do so. The young man's heart was pure and he really put her safety first. Luo Qingtong remembered this in her heart. After dinner, she said goodbye to Huangfu Shi and returned to her room. Pfft, haha. After Luo Qingtong closed the door, she couldn't help but laugh. She put Yi Qianxian, who had transformed into a little silver fox, on the bed, then leaned over to him and laughed until she fell down. Qian. Yinbao. My little darling. Chapter 1666. With a look of disgust, it raised its paw and slapped Luo Qingtong's face, pushing her away forcefully. This woman, he knew she would definitely laugh at him. He didn't want to talk to her anymore, okay? Looking at its ugly rejection, Luo Qingtong laughed even harder. She was almost out of breath. She couldn't help it. She really couldn't help it. Whenever she thought of the cold and dignified Yi Qianxian becoming this cute and uncontrollable, she couldn't help but want to laugh. Especially when she thought of Yi Qianxian turning into a fox cub and playing with toys. Ouch, I can't, my stomach hurts. She lay on the bed and clutched her stomach from laughing. You might as well die from the pain. Yi Qianxian glared at her from the side. He really didn't want to talk to this woman. Only this woman had a way to make him gnash his teeth in anger, but at the same time, he couldn't bear to punish her. Yi Qianxian turned its head away, not wanting to look at her at all. However, Luo Qingtong pulled it back. The latter looked at it and laughed for a while. Then, she took out the little cloth mouse that Yinbao used to love playing with the most from her trash ring. Yi Qianxian looked at the little cloth mouse and his face darkened. What was this woman trying to do? If she dared to let him play with the cloth mouse like before, he would definitely be angry. Yi Qianxian flew into a rage out of humiliation. In the past, it was fine that Luo Qingtong didn't know his identity. Now that she knew that the little silver fox was him, he would rather die than do such a childish and ridiculous thing. Yi Qianxian raised its paw and slapped at the cloth mouse. That appearance was indescribably angry. However, even if he looked like a fox cub with its fur puffed up, it still looked very cute. Luo Qingtong looked at Yi Qianxian's angry appearance and couldn't hold back. She raised her hand and grabbed the little paw that it stretched out. With a smack, she kissed its little paw. Then, he laughed heartily and hugged it as he rolled around on the bed. As for the little cloth mouse, Luo Qingtong had deliberately taken it out to tease Yi Qianxian. She had no intention of releasing it. Luo Qingtong knew that Yi Qianxian was having a hard time controlling the bestial nature in his body. Otherwise, he wouldn't have made so many cute and childish actions when he turned into Yinbao. In the past, she didn't know that Silver Baby was Yi Qianxian, so she naturally liked to play with it. But now that she already knew, for the sake of this man's self-esteem, Luo Qingtong felt that it was better for her to keep some things to herself. Sigh, what a waste of the toys, clothes, and gadgets she had made for little Silver. From the looks of it, Yi Qianxian would never wear it again. Luo Qingtong felt a burst of regret in her heart. She was looking forward to seeing Silver Baby in those toys. Especially that little dress. Yi Qianxian looked at Luo Qingtong's pitiful little eyes. How could he not know what she was thinking? He was so angry that he raised his paw to slap her again. Its little paw was soft. When its nails weren't out, slapping Luo Qingtong was like scratching an itch. Not only was it not painful, but it was also very comfortable. Luo Qingtong didn't even dodge. She let the little silver fox's soft paw slap her face. In the end, she hugged Yi Qianxian and gave him a big kiss. Yi Qianxian really couldn't do anything to her. He coldly snorted and ignored Luo Qingtong. He closed his eyes and felt the power in his body. He wanted to suppress the power of the demon fox blood curse. Chapter 1667. His expression abruptly changed. Bang! He suddenly stood up from Luo Qingtong's arms. No. Yi Qianxian was shocked. He carefully sensed the power in his body and found that there was no demonic fox blood curse power. How was that possible? He had indeed become like this because of the demonic fox blood curse power. During the sea god ceremony, when the light from the statue of the sea god shone down, he did feel the demonic fox blood curse boiling. There was no mistake about it. Could it be because of the light? Yi Qianxian's cute fox face became serious. Qianren, what's going on? Luo Qingtong also realized that something was wrong. When Yi Qianren just closed his eyes to rest, she didn't disturb him anymore. The man obviously wanted to change back to his human form. But now? Did he fail? Luo Qingtong looked at him with a serious expression. Woo. Yi Qianxian wanted to answer her question, but when he opened his mouth, he let out a young fox's cry. In an instant, his face darkened. Luo Qingtong didn't laugh at him anymore. She furrowed her brows and looked at Yi Qianren. Then, she lifted her hand and hugged her, bringing her to the study room. Qianren, write it down. Luo Qingtong said as she put Yi Qianxian on the study table. Then, she ground the ink and pushed the inkstone in front of Yi Qianxian, indicating that he should write it down. Yi Qianxian looked at the inkstone in front of him and nodded. He dipped his claws in the ink and began to write on the paper in front of him. After he finished writing, Luo Qingtong understood the whole story. So, you can't find the power of the fox blood and can't change back? She looked at the silver fox in front of her. Okay, Yi Qianxian wanted to respond, but then he remembered that he couldn't speak, so he nodded. Alright, I got it. Luo Qingtong nodded. This matter was definitely related to the light emitted by the statue of the sea god during the sea god ceremony. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes as she thought about the direct descendants of the Sea Emperor Dragon Court who had awakened after coming into contact with the light. Now that he knew the reason, things would be easier. Let's go, Qianren. Let's go ask Little Lucky what the light from the Sea Emperor statue is. She picked up Yi Qianxian's silver fox and wiped the ink off its paws. Then, she walked out of the room. In the courtyard next door, when Huang Fushi heard that Luo Qingtong was looking for him, he quickly came out to greet her. Sister? He looked at Luo Qingtong who had returned with a face full of shock. Didn't the girl go back to rest? Could it be that someone had turned a deaf ear to his words and neglected her? As Huang Fushi thought of this, he looked sharply at the people behind Luo Qingtong. Sister, did someone bully you? As he spoke, his jade-white face was full of anger. It's fine. It has nothing to do with them. Luo Qingtong waved her hand and looked at him. Little Lucky, I have something to ask you in private. Is it convenient? As she spoke, she looked at the people behind him. Of course it's convenient. Huang Fushi waved his hand and dismissed all the people behind him. Sister, what do you want to ask? Chapter 1668. I want to ask about the sea god ceremony and the sea god statue. Luo Qingtong naturally had her reasons for asking Huang Fushi to send him away. The sea god ceremony was the most important ceremony of the Sea Emperor Dragon Court. It was related to the awakening of the direct descendants of the Sea Emperor Dragon Court. Sure enough, Huang Fushi was shocked when he heard her question. Sister, wait. He walked to the door vigilantly and activated a mechanism. Then, he walked back to Luo Qingtong and sat down in front of her. Sister, why did you suddenly ask such a question? He said, Sister, did you come to the Northern Territory for this? He frowned as he spoke, looking like he was in a difficult position. Sister, I'm afraid I can't help you. The sea god's heart is the most precious sacred object of our Sea Emperor Dragon Court. With it, our sea god clan can pass down generations. Before he could finish, he was interrupted by Luo Qingtong. The latter didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I don't want your sacred object. I just want to ask. Luo Qingtong looked at the young man in front of her who was frowning so hard that his eyebrows were almost knotted. She found it funny. What did she do to make him think that she wanted that thing? However, the young man was subconsciously protecting her when he mistakenly thought that she wanted the sea god's heart. Luo Qingtong's heart warmed. Ah. You're not. Huangfu she was pleasantly surprised. He thought that Luo Qingtong suddenly asked this because she wanted the sea god's heart. If that was the case, he really couldn't help Luo Qingtong. Firstly, it was the sacred object of the Sea Emperor Dragon Court. Secondly, he didn't have the corresponding authority. The sacred object was in the forbidden area. Unless his father gave permission, ordinary people couldn't enter. Now that he heard that Luo Qingtong just wanted to know more, he was relieved. Then, he told Luo Qingtong. It turned out that the so-called miracle of the sea god ceremony was the effect of the sea god's heart. The Sea Emperor's heart is a holy artifact of our Sea Emperor Dragon Court. It is said that it was left behind by our ancestors a long time ago and is very important to us. Big sister, you also saw the awakening of our Sea Emperor Dragon Court's direct descendants during the Sea Emperor ceremony, right? If those who are illuminated by the Sea Emperor's heart are lucky enough, they will be able to awaken the mysterious power hidden within their bodies. He seemed to have made up his mind as he said this. Big sister, you don't know this, but none of us from the Sea Emperor Dragon Court can be considered as real people. The members of the Sea Emperor's Dragon Court possess the bloodline of the monster tribe. We are half monsters. As he spoke, he began to transform in front of Luo Qingtong. Scales grew on the young man's jade-white face, and fins grew behind his ears. His entire person looked very delicate and evil. Charming and gorgeous. Something like webbing suddenly grew out of his 10 fingers and connected them together. Merman? Luo Qingtong looked at Huangfu Shi's transformation in surprise. The latter's transformation looked like the legendary merman. Merman? What's that? After Huangfu Shi transformed, even his voice became gorgeous. He looked at Luo Qingtong with a puzzled expression, then laughed happily. Big sister, aren't you afraid of me? He thought that after he transformed, Luo Qingtong would think that he was a monster. Chapter 1669. Other people would usually change in a certain part of their body. They wouldn't be like him, whose entire body had changed and didn't look like a human at all. Huangfu Shi thought that Luo Qingtong would be afraid of him. Afraid? Of course not. Luo Qingtong looked at the little boy in front of her. Legend has it that the mermaids were extremely charming and beautiful. How could he be afraid when he was so beautiful? Huangfu Shi hadn't grown up yet. When he was older in the future, he would probably be even more beautiful. Such a person was pleasing to the eye just by looking at him. What was there to be afraid of? Luo Qingtong's expression was calm. Seeing that Luo Qingtong's expression didn't seem to be fake, Huangfu Shi jumped up happily. Sister, I knew you were the best. He smiled and squinted his eyes, feeling very happy in his heart. He was really afraid that Luo Qingtong would dislike him. But she asked about the Sea Emperor's heart and he didn't want to lie to her, so he could only tell her the truth. Luo Qingtong smiled and didn't say anything. She saw all of the little boy's worries. But in the 24th century on Earth, she hadn't seen anything. So what if he was a half-demon? So what if he wasn't human? Sometimes, the human heart was more terrifying than a demon. But, Luo Qingtong raised her eyebrows slightly. The people of the Sea Emperor Dragon Court actually had the bloodline of the demon race, and were half-demons? Then the Sea Emperor's heart was probably related to the demon race. If that was the case, it was no wonder that Yi Qianxian was affected. What he was under before was the demon fox blood curse. She was afraid that after combining with the light of the Sea Emperor's heart, some unpredictable change had occurred. If she wanted him to change back to human form, she was afraid that she would have to rely on the Sea Emperor's heart. Luo Qingtong thought so and immediately asked, Shaoxi, does the light of the Sea Emperor's heart appear at other times except during the Sea Emperor's ceremony? No. Huangfu Shi shook his head. The Sea Emperor's heart is in the forbidden area. Except during the annual Sea Emperor's ceremony, it will emerge from the forbidden area and emit light through the ancestor's statue. The rest of the time, it stays in the forbidden area. Even my father and the others can't control it. That's why the annual Sea God ceremony is so grand and important to the northern region. To the people outside, this was naturally just a grand ceremony. However, to the Sea Emperor's dragon court, this was a major event. When Luo Qingtong heard this, she immediately frowned. Will it only appear during the annual Sea God ceremony? How could that be? Yi Qianxian could not wait that long. Luo Qingtong's face was very solemn. Yi Qianxian was too weak in his beast form. 1 year was too long, and there were too many variables. No one knew what would happen. If this was a matter within the true Spill continent, then that would be fine. But, if something were to happen on Yi Qianxian's other side, Luo Qingtong's heart trembled as she thought about it. No, she had to find a way to enter the forbidden area of the Sea Emperor's dragon court and remove Yi Qianxian's cub form. She had to let him return to his human form. Luo Qingtong prepared to bid farewell to Huangfu Shi. She didn't want to make things difficult for him. Although she said that she didn't covet the Sea Emperor's heart, the people of the Sea Emperor's dragon court might not believe her. It was better not to ask Shaoxi for help. She didn't want to implicate him. Moreover, if Luo Qingtong didn't guess wrong, the Sea Emperor's third princess and the others were watching him. Rather than asking Shaoxi for help, she might as well secretly investigate. Luo Qingtong was about to leave. Chapter 1670. Your Highness, the Empress of the Sea is here. The person outside reported respectfully. Mother? Huangfu Shi was surprised. He was about to send Luo Qingtong out when he heard this and immediately opened the door. He looked outside and saw a group of people walking over from the opposite corridor. The woman in the lead had a phoenix hairpin and red hair. Her entire body was luxurious, and her face was graceful and gentle but firm. The aura around her was extraordinary. Mother. Huangfu Shi called out when he saw the woman, then guarded Luo Qingtong behind him with a vigilant expression. Mother, what happened today has nothing to do with elder sister. If you're angry, just take it out on me. Mother suddenly came to his residence in the middle of the night. Huangfu Shi's first reaction was that the Empress of the Sea was here to make trouble for Luo Qingtong. He immediately protected Luo Qingtong without hesitation. Today's matter was third royal sister's fault. He didn't regret dealing with her at all. Mother shouldn't think of making trouble for Luo Qingtong because of this. When did I say I was going to make trouble for her? The Empress of the Sea looked helplessly at Huangfu Shi, who was standing in front of her. Her son had returned to the Sea Emperor Dragon Court for so long, but he was still so pure and kind. She didn't know whether this was good or bad. However, if his personality wasn't so pure and kind, he wouldn't have been saved by the girl back then, right? After all, the other party was the evil Dr. Ghost Eye, who was known as the most evil person in the world. All of you, leave. She waved her hand at the people around her. The latter and the others all left. When there was no one around, the Empress of the Sea looked at Luo Qingtong and said, Miss Tong, can I call you that? She removed the title of this Empress and looked at the girl in front of her with a gentle expression. It was the other party who saved her son and cured him of the poison in his body. The Empress of the Sea had learned everything from her father, Old Master Lanyue. But for some reason, she couldn't thank Luo Qingtong. This had always been a regret in her heart. She didn't expect the girl to come to the Northern Territory. When the Sea Empress heard from her attendant that Huangfu Shi had called the other party big sister, she immediately rushed over. After all, the only person who could make his son, who was pure in nature but didn't like to get close to others, so close was the young girl who saved his life. Okay. Luo Qingtong nodded towards the Ocean Empress. She could tell that he was trying to help her hide her identity. Although she didn't have to hide her identity anymore, she still appreciated the other party's kind intentions. Sea Empress. You don't have to be so polite. The Sea Empress looked at her and said, Miss Tong, shall we go in and talk? She said to Luo Qingtong. Okay. Luo Qingtong walked into the room. The appearance of the Sea Empress also gave her some new ideas. Perhaps she could enter the forbidden ground through him. Luo Qingtong didn't want to implicate Xiaoxi because the young man was too naive. If he wasn't careful enough, it would be troublesome if he was caught red-handed. But after passing through the sea, it might be different. To be able to protect Huangfu Shi in the Sea Emperor's royal court for so many years and still be able to let the latter maintain such a naive and kind nature, the Sea Empress's schemes and methods were probably extraordinary. If she could make the other party help her, then this matter could be considered half done. The three of them came to the round table in the middle of the room and sat down. Chapter 1671. Of course, it's to thank Miss Tong. The Sea Empress looked at Luo Qingtong and smiled. Miss Tong, thank you for saving Shi-er in the Eastern Divine Region and curing him of the poison. The Sea Emperor and I will remember this favor in our hearts. But because of some reasons, we can't thank you, so we can only ask my father, Elder Lanue, to do it for us. We didn't deliberately hide Shi-er's identity, but the situation was a bit special. I hope Miss Tong doesn't mind. It's fine. Luo Qingtong shook her head. Huangfu Shi's situation was indeed special. She didn't want to be involved in the dispute between the forces behind him. The Sea Empress' actions were exactly what she wanted, so she didn't mind. In fact, if it weren't for Huangfu Shi's pure and kind nature, Luo Qingtong might not have helped him. So the Sea Empress didn't need to apologize at all. Okay. The Sea Empress smiled and nodded at her. Then she said, I've heard about what happened at the Sea Emperor ceremony from the attendants. Don't worry, Miss Tong. She said lightly, I've already ordered the punishment of the third princess. She disgraced the reputation of the Sea Emperor's royal court, tarnished the glory of the ancestors of the Sea Emperor, and shamed the ancestors of the Sea Emperor. She won't be able to go out during this period, so she shouldn't be able to cause trouble for you. After the Sea Empress learned about what happened at the Sea Emperor ceremony, she immediately used the heaviest punishment in the Sea Emperor's royal court on the third princess. Because the evidence was conclusive, no one could plead for mercy for the third princess. The Sea Empress easily knocked the third princess unconscious. After such a lesson, the third princess probably wouldn't be able to cause trouble for Luo Qingtong for the time being. Thank you, Sea Empress. Luo Qingtong was surprised. She could hear the meaning behind the Sea Empress' words. The punishment the third princess received was probably not light. But, wasn't she the Sea Empress' daughter? Why was she so heavy-handed? The Sea Empress saw the confusion on Luo Qingtong's face and chuckled. She's indeed not my daughter. Other than Shi-er, the other princes and princesses are all the descendants of the previous Sea Emperor and Sea Empress. It's a long story. In short, the Sea Monarch and I only have one child, Shi-er. Therefore, Miss Tong, you should be able to guess why Shi-er was so severely poisoned when you met him, right? The Sea Empress chuckled bitterly as she said, His Majesty and I tried our best to guard against them, but in the end, we were unable to prevent them from making a move on Shi-er. If we hadn't met Miss Tong, I'm afraid that Shi-er would have already bid farewell to us forever. At this point, she suddenly hesitated. Then, she looked at Luo Qingtong and said, Miss Tong, your medical skills are extraordinary. I wonder if you can help us take a look at the poison in His Majesty's body? What? Huangfu Shi, who was comforting the Sea Empress, almost jumped up when he heard this. Mother, is father poisoned? He asked in disbelief, why didn't I know? He had never heard of such a thing. Your father and I deliberately hid it from you. The Sea Empress looked at him and sighed. Your personality is too pure and kind. We can't let anyone know that your father was poisoned. That's why we kept it from you. Chapter 1672. If someone were to find out about this, the entire Sea Emperor's dragon court would be turned upside down. That was why they tried their best to hide it from Huang Fuxi. It was the same reason why they hurriedly brought him back from the eastern region. At that time, the Sea Emperor had already discovered that something was wrong with his body. He and the Sea Empress immediately brought Huang Fuxi back to see if he could awaken during the Sea Emperor's ritual. If he could, they would do their best to pave the way for him. If he couldn't, they would send him far away and arrange everything for him so that he wouldn't be overthrown and killed by the Sea Emperor's royal court of the North region. After all, if Huang Fuxi couldn't awaken, as the son of the Sea Emperor, he would definitely die if someone else took his place. The Sea Empress and the Sea Emperor had put a lot of thought into this. Because they were afraid of alerting the enemy, they couldn't even find Luo Qingtong to thank her and ask her to help treat him. Because those people in the dark were already watching their every move, waiting for the Sea Emperor's poison to take effect. He couldn't let them know that he was poisoned. He couldn't even let them know that he had discovered that he was poisoned. Mother. Huang Fuxi's eyes turned red when he suddenly learned of such a big matter. Only now did he know why the Sea Empress and the Sea Emperor didn't let him return to the eastern region after he returned to the northern region. They couldn't even contact Luo Qingtong. He also constantly gave him all kinds of things to do to temper him. So it was because there was something wrong with father's body? Poisoned? Is it eldest brother and the others? He looked at the Sea Empress with red eyes and asked, is it? Mother? Yes. The Sea Empress couldn't help but sigh when she saw him like this. She knew that this child wouldn't be able to control himself after knowing this. Fortunately, Luo Qingtong was here. With her identity as the evil Dr. Ghost Eye, she should be able to cure His Majesty. The Sea Empress thought and immediately looked at Luo Qingtong with a hopeful expression. Okay. Luo Qingtong looked at her and nodded. I can help treat the Sea Emperor, but I have a request. She said in a deep voice, I want to enter the forbidden area and see the Sea Emperor's heart. If you agree, I'll do it. Luo Qingtong was still thinking about how to persuade the Sea Empress to help her enter the forbidden area. Now, there was no need to think about it. All he had to do was state his request directly. As long as the Ocean Emperor and Ocean Empress agree, this matter will not be a problem. Going in openly was better than sneaking in, and it would also save him the trouble of causing more problems. All right. The Sea Empress agreed without hesitation. To her, her son and husband were the most important. Luo Qingtong first saved Huang Fuxi's life, then helped him get rid of the poison in his body, allowing him to cultivate, and then awakened the talent of the Sea Emperor clan. Even if Luo Qingtong couldn't cure the poison in the Sea Emperor's body, she would still help Luo Qingtong. Furthermore, the Sea Emperor's heart was only useful to those from the Sea Emperor Dragon Court who possessed the bloodline of the demonic beast tribe. Only those who had enmity with the Sea Emperor Dragon Court would covet the Sea Emperor's heart. The Sea Empress believed that Luo Qingtong wouldn't do such a thing. I'll go back and tell His Majesty immediately. The Sea Empress stood up and said, Miss Tong, have a good rest. I'll send someone to pick you up tomorrow. Okay. Luo Qingtong nodded and left with her. Chapter 1673. Luo Qingtong carried Yi Qianxian back to the courtyard where she lived. She was very happy to have solved the problem of entering the forbidden area. She hugged the cute little fox and kissed it fiercely. That's great, Qianren. You'll be able to recover soon. Luo Qingtong said with a smile. Yi Qianxian snorted softly and didn't say anything. However, he was very happy that Luo Qingtong was so worried about him. Yi Qianxian wasn't worried that he wouldn't be able to recover his human form. However, the way this woman worried about him made him feel warm in his heart. Humph, he thought that this woman was eager to see him become a cute fox. Look at how she laughed at him before. Yi Qianxian snorted softly and didn't say anything. Luo Qingtong thought that he was worried. She immediately lifted him up high, put him in front of her, and kissed him. Don't worry. When we go to the forbidden area, we'll definitely find a way to change back. Besides, even if we can't find a way, you'll always be like this. I won't dislike you. Luo Qingtong said with a smile. Yi Qianxian's appearance was very novel. Luo Qingtong never thought that one day, the strong, proud, cold, and domineering Yi Qianxian would become such a soft and cute little thing. It was really, She couldn't help but laugh. Life's encounters were really magical. She couldn't help kissing Yi Qianxian as she said this. She might never see Yi Qianxian like this again. She still had a chance to kiss him a few more times. Otherwise, it would be a loss. Sigh. Once Yi Qianxian recovered his human form, with his proud and cold temperament, he would never become like this for her to see or hug. Luo Qingtong thought. She hugged Yi Qianxian's two little paws and nibbled on them. In an instant, Yi Qianren felt his hair stand on end. It raised its paw and slapped Luo Qingtong's face. This woman couldn't take any compliments at all. Who asked her not to dislike it? How could he always be like this? Even if she didn't mind, he wouldn't. Pooh. Seeing Yi Qianxian explode, Luo Qingtong laughed. All right, I was just joking. Who told you to keep quiet? I thought you were worried. As Luo Qingtong spoke, she smiled and grabbed its two little paws. She squeezed it and then hugged it in her arms again. By the way, Bei Qing and Feng, you still don't know about your current situation. Let's send them a message later so that they won't worry. Yi Qianxian couldn't change back. If Bei Qing and Feng Yu became anxious, they would be in trouble if they attacked the Sea Emperor royal court. Luo Qingtong had already found a solution. She didn't want to cause any more trouble. Ow! Yi Qianxian cried softly. Then its face darkened. It patted Luo Qingtong with its paw. When Luo Qingtong lowered her head, it pulled out one of Luo Qingtong's palms and wrote something on her palm. Tomorrow, let Bei Qing and Feng Yu go to the Dragon Court Palace with you. Yi Qianxian wrote on her palm. Luo Qingtong carefully felt the strokes on her palm. After recognizing this sentence, she smiled. Okay. She was going to treat the Sea Emperor tomorrow. She didn't know what would happen in the Dragon Court Palace. Yi Qianxian was too weak now. Luo Qingtong would definitely take Bei Qing and Feng Yu with her. Chapter 1674. This man really didn't forget to worry about her all the time. Why didn't he think about himself? Luo Qingtong looked at the little fox in her arms who was deep in thought. She couldn't help but want to laugh. However, thinking about Yi Qianxian's temper, she immediately suppressed it. Let's go back and sleep. We'll go to the Dragon Court Palace tomorrow. Just as Luo Qingtong carried Yi Qianxian back to their room, in the residence of the third princess of the Sea Empire, a loud commotion instantly rang out. Get out of here. The third princess of the Sea Empire was half lying on her jade bed. Her entire back to her buttocks was a bloody mess. She was in so much pain that she was gasping for air as she swept all the things on her bed out of the room. That bitch Sea Empress was definitely using this as a pretext to make a fuss. She deliberately beat her up like this. Didn't she just attack an outsider from an unknown region? So what if she slandered her? She actually used the most severe punishment in the clan to beat her to death. And that bitch from an alien region. Bastard, if she didn't let the Sea Empress have something on her, how would she be beaten up like this? She, Huangfu Shi, and the Sea Empress all deserved to die. The third princess of the Sea Empire was angry and in pain. Her body trembled. At this moment, a figure suddenly stepped in from outside the door. He was almost hit by the things she swept away. He immediately shouted coldly, "What's wrong with you? Are you done?" brother?" Hearing this voice, the third princess of the Sea Empire raised her head and saw the luxurious man standing outside the door. She immediately shouted angrily, "What are you shouting for? I was beaten up like this, and you still scold me. I'm your biological sister. Why don't you shout at that bitch Sea Empress?" "Shut up." The eldest prince of the Sea Empire looked at her and frowned. "I just came back and heard that you were punished for causing trouble at the Sea Emperor ceremony. What's wrong with you? Didn't I tell you to behave during this period of time? Wait until he's dead. What can't you do? Do you have to go against the Sea Empress and Huang Fuxi now? Do you have a brain?" He said coldly. "Yes. I'm brainless." The third princess looked at Huang Xiaolong with a sullen expression. "How long have you been poisoning me? Do you see any reaction from him? Every day, you tell me to bear with it. I've been trampled on by them. If we continue to endure, when Huang Fuxi becomes powerful, both you and I will die." The third princess was infuriated. Big Brother said that he had succeeded in poisoning the Ocean Emperor. And the result? They had waited for a long time, but the other party did not show any signs of being poisoned. She was starting to doubt whether her elder brother was telling the truth. "Shut up." The first prince of the sea looked at her coldly. He raised his hand and closed the door with a gust of wind. At the same time, he laid down a layer of his own aura barrier. Then, he looked at the third princess and said, "The poison has succeeded. That old bastard has been enduring all this time. I've already received confirmation. Otherwise, why do you think I suddenly rushed back from outside? But you..." The first prince of the sea looked at her coldly and said, "You fought with an outlander in the Sea Emperor ceremony over a silver fox. You're really making me proud." He looked at the third princess with a cold expression. If she wasn't his biological sister and still had some use, he would have killed her long ago. She couldn't do anything right, but she was good at ruining things. No. Chapter 1675. It was transformed from a human. As soon as she said this, the Sea Emperor Crown Prince's face turned cold. He walked in front of the Sea Emperor's third princess and restrained himself from slapping her in the face. He kept telling himself that she was still injured. If he got angry, he would most likely kill her on the spot. But the Sea Emperor Crown Prince still couldn't hold back his anger. He gloomily said, "Third sister, do you think your big brother is a fool? Their Sea Emperor clan had the bloodline of the monster race, but they couldn't completely transform into beast form. Not to mention others. She actually told him that the silver fox was transformed from a human. Did she think he was stupid? If a monster race person appeared, how could they not sense it? Not to mention, the true monster race was recorded in the ancient records of their clan. It was impossible for them to appear in the true Spill continent. Big brother, it's true." The Sea Emperor's third princess hurriedly said. She looked at her big brother's cold eyes and quickly said, "I saw it transform in the Sea Emperor ritual with my own eyes. That's why I desperately tried to steal it. Big brother, you have to believe me. That is a very handsome man. I think he either obtained some lucky chance that allowed him to transform into a beast form. Or, he has the bloodline of the monster race, the purest kind. Big brother, you also know that the purer the monster race, the harder it is to awaken the power in their body. But no matter what, big brother, this is a lucky chance for both of us. Think about it, if we can obtain him and obtain the secret techniques and inheritances of the monster race from his mouth, what do we need to be afraid of?" And, the third princess of the Sea Empire licked her lips. She recalled the glimpse she had of Yi Qianren's handsome face, which was so beautiful that it didn't seem like a mortal's. If she could be together with such a man, big brother, think about it, if we can control him and obtain the continuation of his bloodline, the Sea Emperor's royal court, in our hands, will be completely carried forward. At that time, we will no longer be limited to the northern domain, but will rule the entire true Spill continent, and even higher places. Big brother, don't you want to? The third princess of the Sea God Empire's eyes lit up as she spoke. The first prince narrowed his eyes at her. Are you sure everything you said is true? If that was the case, then he would have to get his hands on the silver fox no matter the cost. In that case, he had wronged his sister. Who else knows about the silver fox? No. The third princess quickly shook her head. I'm probably the only one who saw it. However, that woman from another realm that Huangfu Shi is protecting definitely knows about it. She's with a man. Judging from the way the man had protected the silver fox without any hesitation and was willing to pay any price for it, he must have known that the silver fox was the man she was looking for. When the third princess of the sea thought that the man she fancied had been snatched by someone else, a sinister look flashed in her eyes. That bitch didn't know what was good for her. She snatched the man she fancied and even caused her to be beaten up like this. Chapter 1676. She instigated with a vicious look in her eyes. The first prince of the sea looked at her. How could he not know what his sister was thinking? However, this was indeed a hidden danger. That foreign woman knew Huangfu Shi. He couldn't let them have a chance to surpass him. That little silver fox was his, and so was the throne of the Sea Emperor Royal Court. Don't worry, that woman and Huangfu Shi won't be able to escape. The first prince's eyes were cold. Before he came back, he already had an idea and arrangement. Now that the silver fox was involved, it was better to move forward with the plan. It would also prevent undue delay. As he thought about it, he turned and walked out. I'll contact the others now. You stay here and recuperate. Don't cause any more trouble for me. We'll take action tomorrow. Yes. Brother, I got it. The third princess was pleasantly surprised. Take action tomorrow? She rolled her eyes for a while, then laughed out loud proudly. Haha. A bunch of B** cheese, you'll be in trouble tomorrow. Especially that bitch from the outer realm. Do you think we can't touch you just because you're related to Huangfu Shi? Haha. She laughed out loud. Then, she suddenly raised her voice and coldly said to the people outside, Men, bring me the best bottle of medicine that you've obtained in the past. No matter what, she couldn't be absent tomorrow. She wanted to see that woman's expression of despair. Then, as the victor, he would snatch away the little fox that the man had transformed into. She would let the other party know that fighting with her would not end well. After tomorrow, she would make sure that woman couldn't even crawl out of Sea Emperor Island. While the third princess of the sea was having countless vicious thoughts, Luo Qingtong carried Yi Qianxian back to their room and had a good night's sleep. Early the next morning, the carriage from the Dragon Court Palace stopped at the gate of the prince's mansion. Huangfu Shi, who hadn't returned all night, jumped out of the carriage. He looked at Luo Qingtong who was walking over and called out, Sister. Yes. Luo Qingtong looked at him. The little boy's eyes were obviously still red and swollen. She didn't know how long he had cried last night. She was still a child after all. Luo Qingtong patted his head and whispered, Don't worry, your father will be fine. She would do her best to save the Ocean Emperor. Yes. Huangfu Shi looked at her and nodded heavily. He believed Luo Qingtong's words. The girl was the only light he had seen in his life when he was at his most desperate. She will definitely be able to save Imperial Father. Just like how he had saved her. Sister, let's go. Huangfu Shi jumped onto the carriage and extended his hand towards Luo Qingtong. It was supposed to be someone else who came to pick up Luo Qingtong, but he was worried and anxious about Luo Qingtong's arrival, so he came in person. And Luo Qingtong put her hand in his and let him pull her up. By the way, I also brought some people with me. They should be able to enter the Dragon Court Palace together, right? Luo Qingtong looked at him and asked. After Bei Qing and Feng Yu received her letter, they waited at the gate of the prince's mansion early in the morning. He was following right behind her. Chapter 1677. Okay. Luo Qingtong nodded. The carriage sped towards the Dragon Court Palace. While Luo Qingtong and the others were heading towards the Dragon Court Palace, the first prince and the third princess of the Sea Emperor also appeared in the Dragon Court Palace. Why are the first prince and the third princess so free to come to the Dragon Court Palace? In the main hall of the Dragon Court Palace, the Sea Empress, dressed in luxurious clothes, received the first prince and the third princess of the Sea Emperor. She looked puzzled and vigilant. The third princess of the Sea Emperor had just been beaten by her yesterday and was badly mutilated when she was carried back. Logically speaking, she had to be bedridden for a few days. How could she appear in the Dragon Court Palace today? And the first prince, the Sea Empress, looked at the luxurious young man in front of her. He had been transferred to the most remote sea area to patrol. According to her and the Sea Emperor's estimation, he would not be able to return for at least a month or two. How could he suddenly appear here? Could it be that he had sensed something? The Sea Empress' heart tightened as she thought of this. However, she was also someone who had experienced many battles and appeared very calm. From her words and actions, there was nothing wrong with her at all. I'm worried about the Sea Emperor. I heard that His Majesty was not feeling well recently, so I specially came back to see him. The first prince's expression was indifferent when he heard the Sea Empress' words. His eyes were cold, and he did not hide it. His return this time was very strange. If he deliberately concealed it, the other party would think too much. It was better to let them know that he came back on purpose and that he had other motives. Anyway, after today, they would not be able to jump around. Looking at the coldness in his eyes, the Sea Empress' heart sank instantly. As expected, the other party had sensed something and purposely came to test him. She clenched her teeth slightly. Fortunately, they had already invited Luo Qingtong to help. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. These people had been spying on him, just as His Majesty had said. They were waiting for him to show signs of being poisoned, and they would immediately attack him. The Sea Empress was furious, but she did not show it on her face. I'm afraid the first prince has misheard. His Majesty's health is very good. There is no problem. Her expression was indifferent. Is that so? Then, would like to invite His Majesty to come out and meet us. The first prince's expression was cynical. After all, with such words spreading, Anne, you're not one of us, Sea Empress. It's normal for us to be worried. Do you think so? The meaning behind his words was very obvious. He was afraid that the Sea Empress would murder the Sea Emperor. You! Angered by his words, the Sea Empress was about to stand up. At this moment, an incomparably deep voice rang out. What did you say? Is this your attitude towards the Sea Empress? I don't want your concern. After you, get lost. Empress M in the Eam ins Eam. That figure was tall and sturdy, and his face was cold and gloomy. He looked at the first prince and the others with anger in his eyes. Have you seen enough now? The Sea Emperor's voice was ice cold. He walked straight to Hai Ho, held her hand, and comforted her. Uncle, why are you doing this? Big brother and I are just worried about you. Moreover, the Sea Empress is not from our tribe, nor is she from the North region. Who knows what she will do in the future? You're tuning into the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.